Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another evening of enthralling and entertaining racing action in the SimRacing International GTE Championship Season 2 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right, we're back with another round of racing for our Grand Touring Endurance machines, and here today we've made our way back to the US of A and for the Virginia International Raceway in round number 4. A Lazarus of modern motorsport is a circuit that has changed hands on several occasions and gone through multiple administrative changes, but one thing that has never changed at this circuit is its layout. 3.27 miles in length and located in the Virginian countryside, it is a circuit that spans the best part of 17 corners, and within those corners there's a whole multitude of variety. Whether it be long straight, hairpins, chicanes and sweepers, you name it, it's got it, and that's why you do consider its rather aggressive and undulating elevation changes, and with that it means that this is one of those circuits whereby just delivering a good lap around here can feel incredibly rewarding, but taking victory at the end of an extended race is going to feel all that more sweet. But who exactly is going to be the sweetest of them all today, and who may find themselves feeling a little bit sour come the end of our racing? Well, that's what we're here to find out as we bring you all the racing action as if it were live. Indeed, we couldn't quite bring you the racing from round number 4 live from circuit side on the day of the racing, which was all the way back on Friday the 17th of April 2026. We're here today in a post-round broadcast on Wednesday the 22nd of April, bringing it to you as if it were live, and that means we do not know who is going to be on pole position with the qualifying session ongoing in the background. We brought all up to speed for who was the quickest in practice, and most importantly, we do not know who is going to be taking victory, and therefore it's going to be as close as possible to the raw live viewing experience. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this post-round broadcast on the circuit side as you catch it on the one and only place you can catch all the racing action from the SimRacing International GTE Championship. On a weekly basis, of course, these broadcasts do go out on our official YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com and search for SimRacing International, or SRI, and you'll be tuning in there on a weekly basis. And why not subscribe today so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest racing action for our community across our multiple series. In the content booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I shall be your commentator throughout the entirety of the season. And as we make our way into this round, well, let's bring you up to speed with no delay as to exactly what we can expect coming into round number 4 after what was a very dramatic day at Bathurst in round number 3 last time out. But as we can see, last time out on the 7th of April, we were in Australia for round number 3. A 1 hour race awaited our drivers on the mountain, but who exactly proved themselves to be king of the mountain and who found themselves having to be servants to those who took victory? Well, in the pro class, it was 3 from 3 for Philip Ansell. He took pole position by just over 6.5 tenths ahead of Wilson Liu, and after some initial pressure from the WePay 300 esports driver, he was able to just gradually walk away and take the victory by 21 seconds. However, it was not smooth running for Philip Ansell. It was not smooth running for anybody over the mountain because there were some major incidents throughout, particularly in the inter and club classes, and there was one of those incidents in the club class that almost saw our race leader overall and in the pro class of Ansell wiped out from the race, but not quite. He was able to use up one of his many lucky cat lives in order to be able to stay alive and in the end brought home the win. It was a near miss moment, but one thing that did not miss was the setup that he and the team brought to Bathurst. Indeed, he credited the whole team, Coup de Motorsport and Coup de Academy, after the race in his post-round interview, saying if it were not for the setup they'd worked so hard on to dial in, and it was shown across all the cars across the two teams, that setup really was the key for him feeling so comfortable over 60 minutes of racing in Australia. But meanwhile, in the interclass, it was a hero's victory for Jordan Shamblin. Started 5th in class and had a relatively quiet start. Didn't make too much progress, but didn't lose any places. But as the race went on, what we got to see is he avoided making the mistakes, whereas his rivals made mistakes, were caught up in instance, and what it meant was that Shamblin gradually picked up places, and with his fuel saving being so fantastic as it always is, one of his key strengths, he was able to out-overcut everybody in the interclass. He was the latest interdriver to pit, and that enabled him to secure the victory. We're overcutting quality 2, and well, it was his first win of the season, and a great one to talk to him about in the post-run interview room. Meanwhile, in the club class, well, after the heartbreak of Imola and a barrier breaking opener at Sebring, we finally got to see Mark Kent take his first win of the season. And to be fair, he definitely put the forecast together. In qualifying, he absolutely dominated qualifying to take pole position by almost a whole second over Ivan Halpka. And in the race, he stayed out of trouble and focused on just keeping the car alive. And in doing so, he was very emotional in his post-round interview. It really felt as though it was finally the time for that win to come. And it was almost a triple podium for the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport team as well. But specifically for Mark Clark Kent. It was his first win of the season, a well-deserved one at that, and now have the floodgates opened, and could he make it 2 in a row today? Well, that's what we're here to find out as we make our way to VIR, and indeed, we have sunny skies abound, a 1-hour race, and therefore it should be relatively calm on conditions, but we'll have to wait and see where it's calm out of the circuit. But of course, if we've recapped how our winners took to the stage at Bathurst, we need to recap who exactly are the championship leaders and who's giving chase in the standings. And we start off then with the Drivers' Championship standings as we take a look at those. We look to the Pro Drivers' Championship. And here we can see at the very top, Philip Ansell with a perfect score of 175. 3 wins, 3 rounds. And right now, trying to do his best to Mirko Bortolotti impression. Of course, that was the way that Mirko Bortolotti delivered his Pro Championship. The equivalent used to be known, as I stumble over my own words there, in the Elite class back in Season 1. But in the Pro class, Philip Ansell absolutely delivering thus far. And 3 wins in a row. However, Wilson Liu, for 3 wins for Ansell, it's been 3 second places. So we pay 300 Esports his driver. And right now, he'll be hoping that perhaps he can find a way to break up the run of Ansell and make it his first win of the day. Joris Peeters Weem were third place last time out, and definitely a great third place finish. And his story was one where he overcame adversity because in qualifying he failed to deliver. And his race pace showed that he had a lot more pace on tap in qualifying, but he was not able to use it given the fact we had a very crowded circuit. And of course it was an open qualifying format as it always is. But as the race went on, he had a rapid opening 7 laps to move from 8th to 4th. He opted to pit 20 minutes into the race. He went for the undercut strategy. It was a huge gamble versus Tails Vosberg, but in the end it worked out perfectly. He found plenty of clear track, and with Vosberg having a slight incident before he pitted, it meant that Peeters Weem was able to take that third place and not look back. It was definitely a very smart drive, and he earned himself his first podium of the season. 3 points behind, we do see Mark Hutchinson. Our top 2 are breaking away, but the battle for third place is definitely raging on, and for Hutchinson last time out, it was his best result of the season, a 4th place, but he was hoping he could perhaps finish on the podium. But to be fair to the Ford GT driver, the fact that he's getting so much out of the Ford GT, not a popular car currently in the GT category, goes to show you that sometimes having a love for a car that's not popular can still be very rewarding. And Tim Perry, his teammate, not on the grid last time out at Bathurst, and therefore not picking up a score and falls to 5th place. But you can imagine the Altitude 3M drivers will be looking to move forward as quickly as they can today. Rian Cassidy sits in 6th place there, and right now the Irish driver for Eurotitles Endurance are definitely having a difficult day in the office. And indeed, it was only a 12th place last time out. A major incident scuppered his chances, and we want to see him back in the top 5 as soon as he possibly can. Christophe Dubois sits in 7th there for Live at SimRacing, and while he had mixed fortunes, he looked quite good in qualifying, but in the race things went backwards before they went forwards, and the Frenchman was able to recover to 7th place, ahead of Pedro Luis da Silva, the Portuguese driver, who after 8th for Imola took 5th last time out at Bathurst. The momentum is definitely building for the GPX Simsport Xenon machinery, ahead of Tails Vosberg, who would have been on the podium potentially if it were not for that incident just before he pitted at Bathurst. And well, unfortunately for the SRB driver from Lithuania, he now knows he's got to do it all over again. And then do see Davidas Lorenonis, only the further best part of 2 points behind there. Similar fortunes to Vosberg, to be fair to him, last time out. And then we do see outside the top 10, Renee Maurer in 11th, ahead of Aramas Zelinskas. And well, on 52 points there, it was not the day he wanted. He qualified very well, making his way to the 2nd row of the grid. But of course, that huge instant between himself and a couple other drivers coming through turn number 2 meant that Zelinskas ended up backwards before he really got going on the mountain. And sadly, it was not his day to be. Meanwhile, in the interclass, we take a look at the top 12 there. And as we can see, Mark Halsberg currently leading the way for Coude Academy, albeit what a shock of a story it was. Now remember, we said that John Shamblin was your winner at Bathurst in the interclass, but Mark Halsberg was the man who took pole position, and my goodness did he take pole position by considerable margin. 3 attempts ahead of his teammate of Payne, and in the end, what we got to see is that for both Mark and David, they both had instants midway through the race. You could not make it up. They were leading comfortably. It was a 1-2 on the cards for Coude Academy, and suddenly, well, the rug was pulled out from underneath them. Both drivers been involved in major incidents, and then suddenly, it meant in the second half of the race, it all fell apart like a house of cards, and it was a 5th place in the end for Carlsberg, as it was for Payne a 4th place. And right now the team will be looking to bounce back, but one thing that we do know for certain now is that based on the opening 3 rounds, when it comes to one-lap pace, Mark Carlsberg is definitely one of the favourites in the interclass, and also in terms of race consistency, he seems to be a favourite. The only problem is he needs the luck, and at the moment at least, he doesn't seem to have the luck that others do have. Jan Lintz, well, to be fair to the Gazix racing team driver, he had one of those days whereby it wasn't necessarily exceptional in qualifying, but he definitely was exceptional in the race. In the fact that he took 6th place in qualifying, but moved all the way to 3rd come the end. He missed out in qualifying, but it was because of how tight the spread was, rather than there being big gaps, and he was off the pace. It was the simple fact about he didn't quite get the lap he wanted together. And in the race, he made limited progress in the open laps, opting for an undercut strategy 17 minutes into the race, and it enabled him to move into 5th, and then with Payne and Kalsberg both having their difficulties, he was promoted up to 3rd. So fortune did favour him in the race, and the German driver was highly consistent for the Gaz Racing team. VIR's Andrus Kevicius, meanwhile, in 3rd there, and it was a tough round for him. 8th is where he started, 8th is where he finished. He struggled in qualifying, started from the pit lane to offset it, and well, it was a big gamble, and it did not pay off whatsoever. He was involved in a major incident at turn number 2 on the open lap. It forced him to tow back to the pit lane, but to be fair, the SRB driver after that went on a rampage, tearing his way out the field, and in the end was able to get to an 8th place finish, but definitely will be wondering whether it was worth starting for the pit lane in the first place. But he made the gamble, he has to sit with it, and indeed, unfortunately, now moves on. Behind him, by the best part there of 29 points, it's Kwon Lee 2 for We Pay 300 Esports, and his first podium of the season last time out. A very consistent performance, and it was a very impressive one at that, and we had the pleasure of catching up with him and getting to hear about how he felt. And he was very impressed with the way he was able to manage the racing over the mountain, given how tricky a circuit is. And we did see a point behind him, David Payne for Coody Academy, and right now that 4th place finish after 2 7th places, it could have been a podium, and he'll be hoping to right that wrong today. And from him, it's then a further 3 points, but we do come to Flavien Tieffry for Valiant Racing Team. And, well, what exactly went wrong at Bathurst? It all fell apart. A retirement for the race, and sadly for the Frenchman, he'll be looking to bounce back today. But Jordan Chamberlain's now closed the gap. He's 11 points behind, and after his non-finish at Imola, that win was the perfect antidote to his difficulties in Italy, and it adds to his podium from Sebring. And, well, we'll look forward to seeing whether he can go even further forward today. Mikhail Abasek sits in 8th place there for Inox Motorsport. I do believe he may not be on the grid for the remainder of the season, although don't quote me on that, ladies and gentlemen. I believe I was able to catch that down in the paddock just before I went into this broadcast today, and I do believe, unfortunately due to personal circumstances, he has to withdraw from the rest of the season, which if so, well, that's going to be a big blow for Inox Motorsport, and that's a big blow for this grid, because he is one of the much loved drivers out there. And Mikhail, if you are listening right now, I hope all is okay, and we get to see you back on the grid in the near future. Kevin Smith sits in 9th. It's definitely been a bit of a troubled season so far since his promotion to the Interclass, but to be fair to the British driver, he's looking to rise to the challenge for Rhino with Edge Overlays. He's on 59 points, 5 ahead of Victor Shabaro, and outside the top 10, it's Oliver Kemp and Olivier Grenier, who round off your Inter top 12. As for the club class, here we can see Gareth Newton leads the way, and with 2 back-to-back second places, right now he is becoming the man to beat. He started 4th, finished 2nd. He was beaten to 3rd place in qualified by Matthew Massey, but towards the front of a very tight club pack, and in being so close towards the very front, when he found himself separated from 3rd to 7th by only what was 4 tenths a second. But in the race, he avoided the open lap instant, and indeed, as a result, made some major progress over the opening 15 minutes, as other drivers made mistakes, and he took that 2nd place gradually. And therefore, with another 2nd place right now, he's definitely started to carve an advantage. However, John Becker is not too far behind for Valiant Racing Team, albeit last time it was not the result he wanted with that 7th place finish. But given he started in 12th, I think he'll feel as though actually it was the sum of all the parts there, and therefore he's earned himself some rather useful points. Dwayne Hoffman in 3rd place there, came all the way from 13th to 4th, and just like Imola, proved that sometimes it's not about how you start the day. He did set a time in qualifying, but what it is about is making your way through the field in the race. He stayed out of trouble, almost delivered a last to podium drive, until a major instance at a dipper just after the halfway point saw his charge halted. And I do believe, unfortunately, he has picked up an elbow and a hand injury as a result of that incident. The force feedback definitely hit him very hard, and well, I do believe Dwayne's still nursing that injury as he does go racing today for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. And well, to be fair, 3rd and 2 4th places right now, well, understandably, he's definitely becoming a bit of a championship contender. James Bostock, 2 wins, but wasn't on the grid at Bathurst, so his run of wins has been put on pause. It hasn't come to a halt because he wasn't on the grid last time out, and he returns today. And I do wonder whether we'll see the GPXs for Onyx driver potentially make it 3 wins in all the rounds he's attended. Nathan Healy sits in 5th for the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver, part of the double podium for what was the team at Bathurst, and 111 points to his name and his first podium of the season, and he'll feel as though he's finally hitting the good luck. Gianluca Rospo sits behind him. One of the big fan favourites there, the Italian driver for Deeb Motorsports. And well, he definitely had one of those races whereby he had to dig very deep and almost made it what was a podium finish. However, in the end, settled for a comfortable result in 6th place, and he was absolutely proud with that one. And he'll be hoping to be able to move forward even more today ahead of his fellow countryman there, Mikhail Salkuni, who currently sits in 7th. Behind the Vrano Esports driver for Edge Overlays, we do see then it's the first 7 points to his teammate of Marcus Clayton. A non-finish last time out, definitely a bit of a frustrating one for the American driver, but still all that frustration going away for Mark Kemp Kent with his first win on the board after the disappointment of the first 2 rounds, and the British driver will be back with a bang today, hoping to make it 2 out of 2. Matthew Massey sits in 10th place there, the British driver on 51 points, and did an 8th place finish last time out, but still building some momentum ahead of Jaden Innes and Brian Beardsworth, who complete your club standings. As for the Teams Championship, here we can see in terms of how our top 10 teams stand, it's Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport who've definitely started to lead the way, however, not by much. They've moved from 4th to 1st, and they may have missed out on the triple podium, but at the same time, they've been rewarded very well at Bathurst and Coude Academy. What could it have been if they'd been able to make that 1-2 in the interclass? Well, we'll never know, but what we do know is they sit in 2nd place, and they're only 15 points ahead of Valent Racing Team, who had their own difficulties and have dropped from the lead spot down to 3rd. Coude Motorsport, they're in 4th place. It has been mixed fortunes. And of course, whilst it was a win for Philip Ansell at Bathurst, it was disaster for Isaac Fairweather, who was involved in that instant through turn number 2 that really started off the race with a bit of a dramatic start, but unfortunately didn't work out for Fairweather, and he'll be hoping at the 4th time of trying he could have a race that doesn't quite go wrong and it all goes right. And Jaden Innes, meanwhile, constantly contributing as he always does in the club class. For Altitude 3M Esports, they sit in 5th place and 208 points, and right now sitting there quite comfortably, although they have fallen from 3rd to 5th, but they'll be looking to bounce back up higher today because they do have GPX SimSport Zedon and SRB all within 6 points of them in 6th and 7th. Then 8th place, it's WePay 300 Esports, who are gradually making progress. It's their first time inside the top 10 for this season after the double podium for Liu and 2. And then we do have Concord Motorsports in 9th place. And then we're very grateful to that win from Shamlin. It was the key to unlocking their spot to move back into the top 10. Indeed, they've gone from 8th to 9th to make sure they haven't fallen out. And then it's GPX SimSport Vertex who wrap up the top 10 on 179 points. And we're behind them in 11th place. We do have the Gazix Racing Team. Their tough start to the season continues. And they are 11 points outside of the top 10. But with that, let's tell you a little bit about our host circuit. We, of course, at the Virginia International Raceway's full course. There's several layouts to this circuit, and it's one of those rare ones in the world whereby it does have an outer course, which we're racing on today, and an inner course. You may be able to see it in the centre of the circuit image, and the key point being the fact you can run races simultaneously on both layouts of this circuit, and indeed they have 2 separate pit lanes if required. But regardless of that trivial fact that could be useful in a pub quiz, with this circuit located near the unincorporated community of Alton in the Halifax County of the US state of Virginia, is 3.27 miles in length or 5.26 kilometres depending on your preference units, but what never changes is the number of corners, 17 of them in total, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com. Not just for their brilliant circuit maps, but the absolutely fantastic simulator they have as part of it. And as our drivers get ready to take on this circuit today, well, a 2-dimensional image doesn't quite do it justice, but many of these quarters household names in the US of A include Horseshoe Hairpin at turn number 1, NASCAR Bend at turn number 3, and of course Oak Tree all the way down at turns 11 and 12. Unfortunately, Oak Tree no longer there, but once it was there, and indeed an absolute sight to behold, but battling into that hairpin still a sight to behold to this day. And of course, we do have the Virginian Corkscrew of Roller Coaster at turns 14 and 14A, and Hogpen, the corner always catches drivers out as they roar their way onto the start-finish straight coming out to turn number 17. But without that, ladies and gentlemen, we now make our way back to circuit side to see how our drivers are getting on with only approximately 30 minutes of qualifying left to go. And as our drivers make the way on around, we do see then none other than Mark Kent making his way on through. And as he does so right now, going down through the final sequence of corners that I do believe. No, in fact, the opening sequence of corners. I need to get my memory adjusted here. Well, he is currently not the fastest of your club drivers out there. So interestingly, we could have a bit of a different story here today as he goes very sideways there, coming through into the snake, as we do have a brief glitch to our overlay. I do believe that may just be there, a temporary glitch, but don't worry about that. As he makes his way very sideways, one easy mistake to make, and a very different style of circuit here, which may go against the grain of his BMW M8. Because whereas Bathurst definitely was one of those power circuits where you needed to survive the mountain and hold the power on the straights, which is something the BMW M8 is very good for, here we do have a circuit with a couple of long straights, but also plenty of corners. And one that's definitely going to favour the likes of the Porsche 911 RSRs, of which Jaden Innes is currently the fastest club driver out there, ahead of Ivan Halpka in his Corvette. But Innes is currently in 29th place. And the gap between him and Halpka is only the best part there of 2 tenths, if that, and it's a further 10th back to behind Kent. But of course, if we're making our way from the lowest tier of driver to our upper tier, we then make our way up towards the interclass. And currently, well, it's Mark Calsbear, who's currently the fastest of the inter drivers. It is Bathurst all over again in terms of setting the scene here. And it's not to say it's going to be Bathurst all over again in terms of the luck he has today. I should point that out before I put the commentator's curse on him as he makes his way onwards. And I know some of you are going to be sat there thinking, but surely, Paul, this is a post-round broadcast. You cannot put put the commentator's cursor on something that's already happened. You say that, I find a way to make it happen. I don't know how, ladies and gentlemen. I don't mean to do it. I seem to have a cursor myself, which is it doesn't matter if the race is live or post-round. Somehow I'll say something and it will come back to haunt the broadcast later on. Anyway, regardless, hopefully we're not going to halt Cal's Bears' aspirations here at VIR. The 225 driver right now, 6th place overall in this qualifying session. Ahead of his teammate David Payne, albeit between the two of them is Aramis Zelinskas, but here is Payne in the other Kudu Academy car, and right now he is only 300ths behind. But to be fair, doing a fantastic job in 8th, and both of them do have the best part of 3 attempts to Oliver Kemp. And Kemp for Concord Motorsport, definitely looking good, but he's at the head of quite a tight pack of inter-drivers, including none other than Vidas Andruskevicius, and also Sammy Alex and Sebastian Schwertfeger. Now, a big shout out to this man, Sammy Alex, because he made his debut, if I remember correctly, at Bathurst last time out, and as he makes his way on down the back stretch, well, he had a bit of a challenging day, but to be fair, if you're going to make a debut at any circuit, he did pick the hardest one to make a debut at, other than the Nürburgring Nordschleife potentially, and as he makes his way on through in towards the roller coaster, well, we wish him all the best luck. He definitely enjoyed himself out there. And he's been one of those drivers who's a big part of the iRacing official GT Sprint Series community. And he decided to dip his toes into this series this season. Had to miss a couple of rounds, but we told him, don't worry about it. If you've got enthusiasm, even if you miss a couple of rounds, as long as you want to be on the grid and have a good time, that's what it's all about in these GTEs. And we're so grateful he's here right now. We look forward to seeing whether he can take his first podium of the season today as he makes his way onwards. Well, meanwhile, we go from Inter to Pro. And, well, there's no prizes for guessing who might be on provisional pole at the moment. That's not to be rude about him, but to be fair, he is an absolute beast of a driver. It is Philip Ansell as he makes one around on a 40.073 in his Porsche 911 RSR currently. Well, he is the best part of 6 tenths faster than anybody else out there as the Kudu Motorsport driver makes his way down the back stretch. 6 tenths behind him then, well, it's none other than Tom Blandman, the Altitude 3M Esports driver, and looking to try and make amends for a difficult day in Australia for the team and make his way on towards another lap. As he does so, we do have Wilson Liu just a bit further behind. He's currently 3rd fastest. Well, that's not part of the script because he's normally the 2nd fastest in qualified. That goes to show you how competitive the classes can be as he heads down the start for this straight. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to jump aboard with him for a flying lap as Wilson Liu takes us around for a flying lap of the VIR circuit. He's made his way down towards turn 1 as he heads onto the brakes. Run his way through that opening corner, taking it nice and smooth through there. Goes a little bit deep through Horseshoe. That's all part of the game plan as he makes his way now up towards turn number 3. But as he does so, heading in towards NASCAR bend, onto the brakes then nice and early. Roll the car to a tight apex. Oh, and he goes a bit wide. It goes loose on the exit curve and the car bounces around. And for Liu there, well, that's not the way he wants to go at all as he comes to a stop in the grass. And I wouldn't be surprised there if he potentially tows the car. But that all went wrong for Liu, and I believe they're running such a low suspension setup of the car. It hit the curb on the exit and it bounced over the tyre and onto the suspension rod, and as a result that's definitely seen the car go all the way round. Now for Liu, it's an easy mistake. Understanding now he's got to be aware of that, and while he's back, he's potentially going to dial the settings of the car a little bit. We do see Flavien Tieffry going around there. Well, it does seem so it's a bit slippery at turn number 3. I'm pretty sure one thing, there's no oil that's been laid down there. We don't simulate that on iRacing, or it'd be crazy if we did end up simulating that. It really would go from a realistic simulator to a very realistic simulator, although then we would be seeing red flags for qualifying sessions because you have marshals going out there laying down concrete dust or what would be sand in order to be able to get rid of the oil. They'd also be going out there with brooms, water, you name it, that's how they wash it away. But right now, you can't wash away the fact that Aramis Zelinskas is absolutely putting together some good laps at the moment in the Ford GT, and indeed, he is breaking up the trend, whereby it's a top 14 of Porsches, minus 1 Ford, as the SRB Motorsport driver comes on through Oak Tree Bend. He does so. The Ford GT could be quite quick here, to be fair. You've got a lot of fast flowing, sweeping corners, and we're definitely seeing, based on the research I've been doing amongst the GTE community, plus also the series, that the Porsche is proven to be the very popular car, but it's also proven to be probably the strongest car at the moment on the balance of performance. But to be fair, that does not stop surprises from occurring. And we do know this Ford GT has a potency when it comes to fast flowing circuits, of which VIR is one of those. The only downside of this car is it has a very narrow operating window in terms of where it feels comfortable versus where it feels as though you're having to really overdial the car to get the most out of it, at the risk of the car becoming quite unsettled. And that's the hard part of driving the Ford GT at times, in the fact that it does have this sensitivity that perhaps the Porsche and the Corvette do not have. But Zelinskas makes his way onto a flying lap. We jump aboard with him. Let's see if we can make it all the way to the end. So onto the brakes he comes, in towards Horseshoe, making its way very tight there through the corner. Decides to take a much tighter line compared to Wilson Liu, and now bring his way in towards NASCAR bend at turn number 3. You come through turn 2, you brake on the exit there to set up your line into the 3rd corner. Takes a little bit of apex curve and rolls the car out. Now in towards left hook at turn number 4. Onto the brakes, down to second gear before rolling out into the middle of the road and turning into the right hand of 5 of 5A. And now he'll make his way through the snake at turn 6. That quick left hand that could catch up so many drivers. And that's onwards towards what will be the S's sequence. Uphill he'll go at this point, rising up the ranks as he makes his way in towards the left. Then it's going to be the right, followed by another left at turn 7, 8 and 9. Culminates in this right hander here. And then in towards South Bend at turn number 10. Dab the brakes, shut the car in and pray you've got it right. And he gets it absolutely spot on there to Zolinskis as he heads now in towards Oak Tree Bend. Onto the brakes, 125 metres for the first apex, and coming through the right-hander will now make his way onwards towards what will be the back stretch here. Lovely run for Oak Tree. That was absolutely seamless. You wouldn't have thought that was a hairpin with the way he took that. And now make his way down the back stretch. He will get a bit of a distant toe there off of a Corvette. I do believe that's the car of Victor Shimura from Enosis Esports. And Zolinskis doing a bit of weaving here. So I think he may have slightly invalidated the lap code out of South Bend. He makes his way into roller coaster. So we're going to stay on board. Trail braking his way all the way down, about 350 metres from corner apex. And as he makes his way down the hill, and now heading in towards turn 16, left into right as he comes down through Hogpen Bend. Fourth gear, they're holding fourth rather than dropping to third. So I get the feeling he's geared this car quite tall in third and fourth gear, just to make sure he gets less wheel spin coming out the corner. And so this will go on to another lap. That will not be his best lap there by any means, given the fact he did have that slight off-track validation and then weave down the back straight to signal it. But still, he'll be happy with the fact that he's really getting himself up to speed. He is looking very smooth in the 313 right now. We look forward to seeing what he might be able to do a little bit later on. But in terms of surprises then, who's perhaps not having a strong day in qualifying? Well, perhaps one of the big surprises is the fact we do have Jan Lentz all the way down in 7th place here in Interclass. That's 15th overall. Things are not coming together for this man at the moment, at least in qualifying. But to be fair, his race abilities are something to be beheld as well, I should say. And therefore, I think he'll be understandably quite happy to see how it's all trying to click together. But as he comes on through the corners, roaring his way very shortly around through turn number 12. And Oak Tree has always been one of those corners where you get it right. It feels so nice when you get it wrong, however. You feel it all the way down the back stretch. Well, Max Chambers has just jumped up to 4th place there. And more very impressive from Chambers. He parks the car up. He's going to tow to the pit lane. He's got nowhere else to go. That's going around there. And that's to the grass of a car Abasek. So Abasek losing it coming out of the horseshoe. As meanwhile, we see Christophe Dubois coming on through and NASCAR Bend. Now, if you're wondering why turn number 3 is called NASCAR Bend, I do believe the history is that essentially over the years, this circuit has played host to some guest rounds for NASCAR, where it's not been part of the championship, but it has been a circuit that's acted as a road course round in the NASCAR series. And well, at turn number 3, before it got its name of NASCAR Bend, in one of the guest visits for NASCAR, several major names in NASCAR, including I do believe the likes of Dale Earnhardt, all got it wrong in a single race. The caller claimed so many of their races, so them all go to the barrier. Therefore, it was renamed to NASCAR Bend, albeit quite unfortunate, you could say, for NASCAR fans, of the fact it's the caller that seems to claim NASCAR drivers. But understandably, that name has stuck, and that's why it's called NASCAR Bend. Now, there are some other names of some of the callers around here, particularly when we raced in the America's GTE Championship, where we used the entire Grand course, which brings together both circuits, both the inner Patriot course, as it's known, plus also the outer full course, which we're racing on. And well, the corner is right here, essentially, just before the roller coaster. And I can't use its name, but I will give you an analogy as to how the corner is named, in the fact that it is the term used to refer to a female dog. There you go. Now you know exactly what I referred to, and I haven't sworn on the broadcast. To date, ladies and gents, I do believe I've yet to swear on a broadcast in the space of 5 years, and hopefully that will never happen. But as we do see our tries to make the way onwards, well, we do look to Jaden Innes, who's still very much impressing in the club class. We do apologise there for the overlay resetting itself. Unfortunately, it's out of our hands. We do know the reason why. It is because of a slight technical limitation, but that will go away, hopefully, when we do go racing. But nothing for you guys and girls to worry about on your screens. It is entirely on our side, as we seem to have lost Wilson Liu for the time tower in 3rd place. That's why there's a void up there, but we promise you that is where Wilson Liu is. But as we do see, Jaden is heading around. Well, what about John Becker? How's he doing out there? Because he's down in 12th place in club. Heads towards the timing line, and he's only got 1.5 minutes left to go here. He's got to improve and improve soon. He is on a personal best, however. His first half a lap is very impressive. It's a 43.899, and it jumps him up to a 9th place in club. So this is a little bit more towards what we come to expect from the Valence Racing Team driver. How he's still got a lot more work to do. This is not where he wants to be. Taos Vosberg as well. This is the biggest shock to the qualifying session. We've got 49 drivers here, and Dwayne Hoffman's yet to set a lap, but I suspect he's starting from the back of the field. He's making a habit of that, but to be fair, given his his injury. I wouldn't be surprised if he decided to start there, also to keep himself safe. But meanwhile, Vosberg makes his way on around, and right now, no lap to his name. It is not looking good whatsoever. He's got quite a bit of work to do here, and as he makes his way down the start-finish straight, what's it going to be? Well, it's only good for last place at the moment. That's a banker lap. He's going to have one more lap. He's going to have to see if he can get himself all the way up there. Because otherwise, he's going to be starting from the very back of the field, and that's not where he wants to be at all. And that's going to massively hurt. But as he roars his way on around, well, understandably, there's going to be a bit of work for him to do. And, well, there's a bit in terms of work also to be doing. It's none other as he parks up. So Vosberg's going nowhere fast. As I looked away for a brief moment and find him in the grass. So Vosberg, we start from the very back of the field. Rene Maurer as well in the Leopard Esports BMW. As another car goes off the road there. I think that's Christian Ablas taking a trip on the rallycross approach. Rene Maurer headed on around as Mark Kent steals back pole position in club, but it's short-lived because Jaden Innes takes it, and he takes it back there for 42.150, but the gap between the two is only 200ths, and they've still got one more lap to go. So this is going to be a duel in Virginia for the club pole. Meanwhile, in our other classes and categories, well, it's going to be over there, and Jaden Innes decides he heads to the grass. He's done and dusted. He cannot go any quicker. It may be a personal best there for Jaden Innes, so once you've done that and you've exhausted all your resources, he may not be able to go any faster. But to be fair, good work from him as Oliver Kemp, meanwhile, makes his way through left hook. I don't know the story behind the name of that corner, but if it is anything to do with boxing, well, it'll be very interesting. I don't know why Turn 5 wasn't called Right Cross, but as they make their way on around, and I can tell you that Oliver Kemp right now is doing very well in this qualifying session. Third in Inter and 11th overall. It'll be his best qualifying performance so far in the season. But these tries head on around, and, well, clock says 0, but we've still got a few tries to head towards the line, including Ryan Cassidy. As he comes towards the line, oh, hold up, that's a guy to the barrier there, and, well, somebody decides to break their car a little bit further. I think, in fact, that might have been steering damage already for John Shamblin as he went straight into the barrier. But here comes Cassidy across the line, and does he improve? No, he almost matches his best of 41.357, but he goes nowhere quicker. Rene Maurer comes towards the timeline here in the BMW. What's he going to be able to do? He's currently 2 seconds off of overall pole. He was 25th, he stays 25th. We still do have Mark Kent coming around. Remember, he is one of a limited number of drivers on a final lap. In fact, I believe he may be the very last driver on a lap here because Rene Maurer's not on one. Benjamin Massey's too far back to be on one. And the only other driver out on circuit is Mikhail Salkuni. And, well, Kent comes in. So, in the end, Jaden Innes takes that club pole position, 28th overall, ahead of Mark Kent, who'll be second in the class, 30th overall. And Ivan Hauptke will complete the top three there in 32nd. Meanwhile, in terms of your inter-drives, it will be Mark Kalsberg, who'll be starting in 7th place overall. He's going to be very pleased with that to take the inter-pole position. David Payne, his teammate, will start 9th, second in class, separated by them by what is Aaron Musterlingskers, but the gap was still only 300ths to the finish. And then we will see Oliver Kemp not too far behind, starting in 11th place there. He was a further 2.5 tenths behind him, ahead of John Shamblin, Vidas Andrzejkiewicz, Jan Lins, Sammy Alex, and then it will be Davidas Lorenonis, who you see there parked up in the back end of the pit lane is BMW. Well, they will complete the run to 16th place there. Meanwhile, the overall pole position goes to Philip Ansell, ahead of Tom Bland, and in the end, the gap was 6 tenths. And in third, not shown on the timing tower, it will be Wilson Liu, ahead of Max Chambers in the end by a slender margin. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is qualifying complete. And as we get ready now to go racing, we're not too far away from going green flag. Well, of course, we do take a small breather. We take our breather for 5 minutes now to give our drivers an opportunity to change the setup of the car, plus also take a comfort break. And it's the perfect opportunity for you guys and girls at home tuning in today to also take a comfort break of your own in order to make sure you're all set for the 60 minutes of racing action that is just around the corner here at VIR. As we do take a quick sip of water to make sure that we're properly hydrated. And don't worry, by the way, if my voice does sound a little bit weak by comparison with normal, just a little bit under the weather at the moment, but all okay here otherwise, ladies and gentlemen. And well, the show must go on, and it always goes on. I wouldn't be without my wonderful GTE Championship on Friday evenings. Well, it doesn't belong to me, this championship belongs to the community at SimRacing International, but it definitely is very dear to my heart, because I absolutely love the Grand Touring Endurance class, and indeed, one of the most notable classes, and I must admit, on a bit of a self-indulgent note, I was there at Le Mans in 2023, seeing the final time they took part in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and getting to see the cars roll around. Sadly, no BMW M8, but definitely getting to see the Corvette, the one Corvette there from Pratt & Miller Motorsport, take its final win at Le Mans by a monster margin after coming back from 2 laps down, and also seeing the Porsche 911 RSRs out there screaming screaming their way past us every time, but also the Aston Martin V8 Vantages were something quite special about the GTE machines. I don't think we'll ever quite recapture with GT3s. That's not to belittle the GT3s, to be fair, but I just feel as though GTEs were a bit more of a golden age of motorsport in a way, even if we didn't have anywhere near as much car variety, but you always had that thrill. At any moment they could lock up the brakes and get it all wrong. But still, and that's me being a bit whimsical. Forget my whimsiness for the moment. As we do see Marcus Clayton heading on around for Rhino Esports with Edge Overlays. And we'll keep in mind the Rhino Esports teams have been slightly renamed coming to this round. We now have 2 Rhino Esports teams with Edge Overlays, teams 1 and 2, rather than just the Rhino Esports with Edge Overlays team and then the Rhino Esports team. Just made it a little bit clearer. And well, you do have Tillotson and Smith for Rhino Esports Edge Overlays 1, and then you have Clayton Alsokuni for the second of the teams there, just to clear that up in case you were a little bit confused. But as we do see Clayton make his way down through the roller coaster and rolling his way onwards very shortly to what will be a flying lap. But we haven't got too long in this warm-up session here as the Rhino Esports Edge Overlays driver heads on down, and as he does so, well, some lap times coming in from those wanting to do some lap times. And well, here's Pedro Luis da Silva, the GPX Simsport Xenon driver, who we didn't really talk too much about in qualifying, but today looking to try and target another top 5. And to be fair, how competitive this pro field is. And well, to finish inside the top 5 in it is an achievement in itself. You really are looking at some of the finest GT drivers in the iRacing Simulator platform. Indeed, this series, in a way, could be likened to be really a best of the best in some respects when it comes to drivers racing predominantly around the European and the American continents. But we've got drivers all the way from as far as China and Australia racing. So it's an international series, much like our community name would suggest. Indeed, it's open to anybody who loves GTEs or just wants to try them out. And a lot of drivers as well had not tried out GTs before the start of this championship, including James Bostock, and the owner and manager of SimRacing International, or one of them I should say. He makes his way around the GPX Simsport Onyx driver. Well, he's become absolutely hooked on GTs ever since giving them a go. I'm very glad I pulled an addiction there, and that's what you're going to expect at some point, my son, to hear those words. And well, straight away, ladies and gentlemen, I get the feeling I've put myself into a bit of a tricky situation there with saying that. But as he makes his way around, well, the GTE bug has definitely taken to Bostock as he heads onwards. And as he makes his way on around, we do look to Craig Tillotson. And we can see here the Rhino Esports with Edge Overlays driver, the Ford GT he switched to. And going away from his Ferrari, although a bit of a different livery on the car here, but still looking good. And something tells me we may only now have one Ferrari on the grid, and that is Max Wheeler in the Ferrari. Now, that's the Ferrari 488 GTE Evo. And, well, the Ferrari, not a very popular car at the moment. And from what I'm hearing, the scuttlebutt down the pit lane is that essentially the Ferrari is a very tricky car to get any time out of the moment at all. You can deliver fast laps of it, but it requires so much effort to try and get those laps together. And the problem is as well, particularly under braking, it does seem to be very hit or miss in how good it is on the brakes compared to some of the other cars out there. As Kai Hitchler, he takes a bit of an inventive way of approaching the roller coaster. That won't do in the race, unfortunately. That will see him pick up a slowdown penalty, but the Airplay Esports driver, joking aside, making a bit of an innocent error, but gets those errors out the way now, and so that way he doesn't have to worry about them when he does go green flag racing. He does so, making his way towards the timing line. Well, this warm-up session is almost done and dusted. Already got 40 seconds left on it, but everyone just getting themselves all nicely dialed in. And well, what a way to do it, because we've got a lovely day here at VIR. And in terms of your weather, you can see it on the right-hand side. We've got a relatively cool circuit, 90 degrees centigrade ambient temperature, 21 degrees centigrade track temperature. I suspect that will rise as the day goes on. I had to wait and see how much it rises by, but definitely this is going to be one of those circuits that will be quite comfortable to get some pace out of once you've got those tyres warmed up. But the opening couple of laps could prove to be just that little bit slippery for our drivers. Indeed, it may feel as though it's like driving on an ice rink to an extent. That's the way they normally refer to it until they've got the tyre temperature. But we'll have to wait and see, because without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to make our way to the grid here for round number 4 of the SimRacing International GTE Championship. And as our drivers get ready to go here at VIR, well, who exactly is going to prove themselves the king of the countryside? It's time to find out. And so, as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this will line up for round number 4 of the championship as it does come up on your screen. And as we can see, ladies and gentlemen, Philip Ansell making it another pole position for Cuda Motorsport, taking pole in the end by the best part of 6/10 over Tom Bland. And the Altitude 3M Esports driver, really the best of the rest of the field as they all get set to get underway from the pit lane. Wilson Liu starts in third place there for We Pay 300 Esports, and in the end was a further 3 tenths behind, almost behind Bland, but in turn was 700ths ahead of Max Chambers for Concord Motorsport. Starting in fifth is Pedro Luis da Silva for GPX SimSport Xenon, and the Portuguese driver there only 2 thousandths behind the second row, but in turn he was a 10th ahead of Christophe Dubois for Live Sim Racing. Mark Halsberg starts in 7th place for CUDI Academy, ahead of Aramas Zalinskas for SRB Motorsport by Lint Vega, and it was very tight between them, but congratulations to the CUDI Academy driver of Carlsberg for taking into pole position and making it back-to-back poles. Now can he deliver the win he's been looking for today? David Payne, his teammate, starts directly behind him on the grid in 9th, second place in the class. Well, the CUDI Academy trial, we hoping that today the bad luck goes away and it can be a 1-2 for the team. Ryan Cassidy starts in 10th there for Team Endurotech, and I do apologise because I referred to as what was Enduro Titans Endurance earlier on, and in fact it is Team Endurotech there, so we get that corrected. And outside your top 10, starting in 11th place, it's going to be Oliver Kemp there for Concord Motorsport. He's third in the interclass, ahead of Jordan Shamblin, his teammate. And this could be a huge opportunity for the team today. Can they potentially make it a double podium instead? Can they take the fight to CUDI Academy? If not, will they definitely have a fight from behind, because SRB Motorsports' Vidas Andruskevicius starts in 13th. It continues the theme of Interdrives, with Jan Lynch joining him on the 7th row for Gazdex Racing Team. Sammy Alex, a great qualifying performance from the Portuguese driver, starts in 15th, just ahead of Davidas Leonis, and the SRB Motorsport by Lint Vega driver there started off his day on a happy note with 16th place, but can he move forward? Because we'll see alongside him Sebastian Schwertfeger, 17th for the grid, the German driver, head of Mark Hutchinson, who struggled a little bit in qualifying, but to be fair, the Altitude 3M Esports driver is normally stronger when we go racing. Tim Perry, his teammate, lines up behind, and I suspect there Perry surprised himself qualifying behind his teammate, but to be fair, he'll be itching to move forward, as will Christian Ablasser, who starts 20th for Gazdex Racing Team. Outside the top 20, 21st is Chad Henson for Turbo Rensport, ahead of Victor Shimoro. Then we will see from them Benjamin Massey, 23rd for Inox Motorsport, ahead of Flavian Tiefri, and the Valiant Racing Team driver, knowing he's got a little bit of work to do. Meanwhile, behind 25th, it's Leipert Esports' Rene Maurer on the 13th row of the grid, and he'll be in the company of Clyde Vella for GPX SimSport Vertex. 27th, it's Freewheeler Racing's Max Wheeler, the only Ferrari left on the grid, but to be fair, he's going to try and do the Tifosi proud. And then joining him on the 14th row will be your club pole sitter of Jason Innes for CUDI Motorsport, and the Canadian driver putting a stellar effort together ahead of Mikhail Abasek for Inox Motorsport. Mark Kent starts 30th for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, and behind him, 31st on the grid, it's going to be Kai Hitchler for Leopard Esports, with John Lubbock in close company. The gap between the two of them only 12 thousandths. But then from the Interdry, it's two of the club driver Ivan Hauptke, with one of his best qualifying performances to date, starting third in club, 33rd overall. Kevin Smith lines up alongside, starting in 34th for Rhino Esports with Edge Overlays, and it'll be Olivia Grenier starting 35th for Live Sim Racing, ahead of Matthew Massey. The Spectre Racing drive will be followed up by fellow club drives of James Bostock starting 5th. Well, to be fair, he's got some work to do if he wants to try and make a win out of this one today, and the GPX SimSport Onyx driver will be joined on the 19th row by Brian Beardsworth, his teammate. Nathan Healy starts 39th for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, and it'll be Gareth Newton who completes your top 40 there, and he's going to have a bit of time for GPX SimSport Vertex, who wants to try and make it another second place finish. Outside the top 40, 41st, it's going to be none other than John Becker, although I believe Becker has opted to start from the pit lane for Valiant Racing Team, so I wonder if they've got an issue with the car that they're trying to work on. The Dutchman will be in the company of Marcus Clayton for Rhino Esports Edge Overlays. Then we do see in 43rd place, well, Gianluca Rospo for Deep Motorsport, ahead of Michael Salcuni. It's the Italians who are over the 22nd row, and then the Rhino Esports for Edge Overlays drive. We followed up by none other. There will be Gavin Corby, the privateer, and Max Dean at 46th. And then 47th on the grid is going to be Craig Tillotson for Rhino Esports for Edge Overlays, head Taus Vosberg for SRB Motorsport. And then not setting the time in qualifying, it will be Dwayne Hoffman for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, who starts in 49th place. And that is how your grid will stand, ladies and gentlemen. As they all make the way through Oak Tree Bend. Well, the rear end of the field still making its way through the hairpin. The lead portion of the field right now following the safety car down the back stretch. They've gone single file for a brief moment, and I think this is all part of trying to get some tyre temperature as we look down to the closer cameras, but they will be required to return to what will be the double file formation before they do go green, so therefore they'll all have to play catch up here, and they're leaving it a little bit late to do so. But to be fair, everyone wants a bit of tyre temperature towards the very front, and now they will have to form up as they now begin to get themselves into position. As all the drivers come on down the hill and get ready for roller coaster, albeit much slower than they normally would. Well, meanwhile, we look back to Vidas Andruskevicius as he rolls his way onwards. And we're right on board here with the 293 driver, starting right in the mix inside the top 15. And he's going to be battling hard with Jan Lintz on his left there, as you can see, but also John Shannon and Oliver Kemp in front. It could be a very exciting opening few laps in that interpack. But excitement will abound everywhere, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way down through the last couple of quarters. And Philip Ansell brings the field away from the safety car a little bit. He can only go on green, to be fair to him. But he's giving himself some space. And it's over to the CUDA Academy driver, to the CUDA Motorsport driver, I should say, in order to take us away for 60 minutes of racing action here at VIR in round number 4 of the SimRacing International GTE Championship Season 2, brought to you on iRacing. And it's lights out, away we go for 60 minutes of racing action as they roar the way down towards turn number 1. It's a good start there from Ansell, and he'll be happy with that, as now Tom Bland's going to look round the outside to try and fend off Wilson Liu. He's going to do so. A bit of a lock up behind for a couple of drivers. A couple of drivers getting caught out with heavy brakes. Oh, that's been a bit of a knock there for David Payne. Oh, there's going to be more contact. That's going to be Jordan Shamlin being caught up. Well, thankfully, all the drivers are able to survive it and get themselves pointed back in the right direction. I don't think anybody's gone fully around. So well done to everyone as we do see there. Is that Jan Lynch taking the grass? Yes, it is, as he goes to rejoin. So he's got to drop all the way down the field. Car wide there. That's Mark Hutchinson having a big run wide, and the field makes his way around right now. Definitely a bit of a dramatic start for several drivers. But meanwhile, from drama, it's right now battling heroes. We do see Max Wheeler going on the attack versus what is none other than, what I do believe there, that's Kevin Smith, as we've lost Ryan Cassidy, who's gone to the grass. I believe he's out there in the grass. We've also got a car rejoining in the background. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, Philip Ansell already making the breakaway, as we've had Wilson Liu have a big run wide at South Bend, slightly off camera. So therefore, Bland gets on through. There's Max Chambers at the rear of the picture, and then Pedro De Silva side by side here with Mark Calsbear. Calsbear absolutely on a charge right now as the interlead as they make the way down the back straight. Heading onwards, Christoph Duval, Amos Zelinskas, Wilson Liu and Oliver Kemp all following, and right now you can see there Kemp battling side by side with Wilson Liu, and Liu making a critical mistake as the Concord Motorsport driver is going to try and capitalise on it. He wants to go hunting after Calsbear. Whilst it's worked out for Calsbear, it's not worked out for Payne. He's a lot further down the order at the moment, and well, 2 by 2 they come into this braking zone, as meanwhile Tom Bland having to go defensive there versus Max Chambers for second place for Pro and overall, and he'll hold on to it for now as they roll the way down in towards Hogpen Corner. But it's definitely been a mixed start to this race. We've had a bit of drama, but we've also had some brilliant battling, and I think it's going to continue now, as meanwhile Mark Kent is into lead of the club class, ahead of Jaden Innes, who's half a second behind him. We go John Lebert, McCount, Avocet and Evan Hauke following on through as they all make the way on to the next lap. But I believe, oh goodness me, what on earth has happened there? Why is there a car reversing into the middle of the road? That's going to collect a couple more drivers there, I believe. Is that Christophe Dubois reversing across the road? I think it is, and well, I think there's a reason for it, but I'm not quite sure why. But he's rolled backwards there most definitely. I don't think he was literally reversing and having his reverse gear on, unless I'm mistaken. But Christophe Dubois rolling on the road. Meanwhile, that's got a Hitchner going off into the grass, and well, the Leopard Esports driver in the 310 heading onwards and in towards turn number 3, and well, the 310 car right now coming on through, and it's definitely proven to be a bit of a challenging day for the BMW driver. It's proven to be a challenging one for a lot of drivers, but a lot of drama there, no doubt about it. We're going to have to get a replay of that when we can. But meanwhile, with all the drama going on, Amos Zelinskas, he's avoided the drama. He's got Wilson Liu close behind him, but the Ford GT driver still trying to push on. He's running 5th in Pro Class right now as they come over the crest and down again. But goodness me, what a big moment that was. And meanwhile, Max Wheeler trying to go on the attack here as we ride on board with the 323 driver as he jinks his way left, right and into left-hander of South Bend, pretty much on the rev limiter there as he came down the gearbox and make his way up towards the Oak Tree hairpin. Will he have to look for a move here? The answer is no. He's going to have to wait just that little bit longer, and Renee Maurer right now keeping it nice and compact, and indeed Wheeler is going to be the filler in the sandwich for Leopard Esports. Going on towards what will be the roller coaster very shortly. You can see the Ferrari driver right now doing everything he can to stay nice and close, but that BMW's got slightly more legs on the straight, and the Ferrari just losing out a little bit, even with the power of the draft of these GTs. They pick up a huge toe off each other, but even so, that BMW's got a lot of straight line speed as Wheeler just brings it through the Virginia corkscrew. Going down the hill then, and as we do leave the onboard, well, further back we do have Gavin Corby fighting here with Sammy Alex, and Alex on the right, and meanwhile Corby on the left, and Corby then is going to lose that place, as it will be Alex now moving up into 35th place. Again, where he started, as Jaden Innes comes on through, well, Innes as well, this is a big shock to the system. He started on pole, he's been relegated all the way down the order, and CUDA Motorsport, well, again, has been mixed reactions, as Gavin Corby there has great reactions to catch that car, as he almost took the rear of what was Benjamin Massey. Massey going around the outside and there to survive, and they come down the hill, but it has been definitely a crazy couple of laps, and it's not over there as Drain Hoffman tries to make a bit of a defensive stance versus the Team Enduratech car, the 333 of Ryan Cassidy, but Cassidy then will take that place off him, but Hoffman making some gradual progress already as he has made his way past Max Dean and also John Becker behind as they continue to follow. As the battling goes on, well, plenty more action to come as we lose the Amasa-Linskas. He's right aboard, looking back to the rear of the 313 driver from Lithuania. And well, he's got Wilson Liu trying to find a way back past. Remember, Liu starting in third place overall and in the pro class. He wants that place back sooner rather than later. But after what happened at South Bend on the open lap, it's going to be a bit of a struggle to try and get that place back immediately. Chad Henson, you can see here for Turbo Rennsport. Well, he's on the back of Vidas and Jaskevicius. Trying to find a way to poke his way into 14th place overall. It's going to be easier said than done, even with Jaskevicius going slightly wide there. But small mistakes like that don't really make a difference when you're that far back. You need to be a lot closer to capitalise on that. But we're going to take the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to capitalise on some of the time when the batting does come down for a brief moment to understand what exactly happened at the start, or do we? And no, we do not, as that was almost a change of position there. And Jaskevicius trying to make his way on past the lap down car, or in fact, that car unlapping itself. I think that's David Payne unlapping itself there, and I do apologise for the confusion. So Payne on the run, and right now he is a lap down to the field, and he was caught up in an open lap instant, but we are going to see what happened there as John Becker and Max Dean swap places, and that'll be the 33rd overall or 11th in the club class. Or will it? No, it will not. Oh, and there's contact between the turbines. Dean tries to go around the outside, and Becker at the edge just tapping the rear there. And I think Dean may have turned in a little bit prematurely as well. So I think both of them could have done better there. But understandably, Max Dean coming off the worst, he goes to rejoin. But look where he rejoins into. That's other cars trying to make their way up the order, including Jaden Innes and Sammy Alex, who drops all the way back to 37th place. I think Dean won't be too appreciative of what's happened there, but I'm sure they'll talk about it afterwards. But still, we now take a trip back in time and find out what exactly happened at the start of the race. So as we did go green flag racing, well, Philip Ansell getting a good start, no doubt about it. We looked to the blimp camera, and this had the perfect view of how we went green flag. So Ansell went racing, and as he did, Tom Bland literally hugged him there. As you do as number 2 on the grid, you need to be able to see what's going on. So Bland had a good run, but he lost out in the braking zone, and Sonny Wilson Liu looked up the inside. Bit of a lock up there, and that was your Ford GTE Zelinskas going very deep, but he kept it together. And then that was Payne being bounced around there. I think he was in a little bit of contact with another driver, and then being picked up by Jan Lintz, who collected him on the rear by the looks of things. Don't quote me on that, however, but that's what it looks like. Let's try and see what it looked like from Payne's perspective, and well, Lintz had to then rejoin. But there was then drama a little bit later on, because as all the drivers then made the way in towards what was left hook and then the right-hander. Well, what exactly went wrong here is the question. We see them all coming through. Jaden Innes was at the heart of it. He'd already lost out to Kent at the start. Car off the road, that was Rian Cassidy. And we also saw a car off the road there in the form of, I believe, that was Sammy Alex being caught up. So, a bit of drama between them. Oh, goodness me, we didn't see that. That was the car of, I believe, well, it was definitely one of our drivers who's got all the way around. I think that was a Valent Racing Team car that was bounded off the wall. Couldn't quite tell you who it was, however, unfortunately. I think that was Flavien Tieffre who was being bounced around. But this is what happened then from the onboard of David Payne's perspective when we go in green flag racing. If we can get the onboard, ladies and gentlemen, as we just go green here once again with regards to our replay. And here we go. So this was on board with David Payne. We went green flag in the inside, and we're having a decent start, no doubt about it. But in the end, squeezed a bit, and that was a big compression there, and that was the contact that did send our Ford GTE driver wide, and then there was contact one side, then the other, and it did not Payne around, and then he gets knocked on the back there. That was not by Jan Lintz, who was taking evasive action, because as we would have seen it in the reversing camera, it was somebody on his inside right that made that contact. We're not blaming him, to be fair, but that's what definitely happened. Meanwhile, we had this from Mark Hutchinson at the start. This was Hutchinson having a bit of a moment, making his way in towards NASCAR Bend after all the heroics and theatrics that happened, and we went on the brakes, and then it went very wide, and we had to rejoin it very gradually, so we didn't quite catch that, but then he came back onto the road, and his teammate there made his way to the inside, and that was Tim Perry almost trying to make a move on him, but it didn't quite work out. But after all that, we did have what was even more chaos and carnage occur, as we did have this for John Becker, well, not for John Becker, my apologies. We had this for Flavien Tieffre. Now, what happened to the Frenchman? It was coming on through. Yes, his sequence here, and as we can see Hutchinson rejoin, well, he's going to be looking at the potential move to get elbow. He comes across there, not expecting Hutchinson to be there, gets collected and gets spinning across the road, and somehow, thank goodness, there was nobody there to make contact with him. Otherwise, I think we would have seen a traffic jam going up into the S's, and that would have been a nightmare sequence. But speaking of nightmare moments, this was Wilson Liu getting it very wrong, as he made his way in towards South Bend, fighting very hard with Tom Bland at the time over second, and in the end had got the place, carried too much speed in South Bend, and leapt into the air as he came out the corner, went to rejoin, as he did so had to take it very easy on the rejoin, and did so in the end, but almost end up in a situation whereby I think he was going to be elbowed off the road once again. So for Wilson Liu, that was definitely a good save from him, albeit he went airborne then. He got some air time, literally on the broadcast, but also in the air, in the skies. But we also did have a big incident on the start-finish straight. Now, one of the big questions is what exactly happened there. This was Christophe de Bar, and I think he's going to be at the centre of a degree of controversy here because we saw his car rolling back across the road. I think he was trying to reverse that away. So he lost the rear cone at Hogpen, hit the barrier. Now, what happened here? Car rolls back into the middle of the road. Reverse gear on there. I think he's made a mistake. I think he's panicked. I don't think he's meant this maliciously. What I think has happened is he's panicked. He's tried to get to first, and then he's hit reverse. The car's stuck in reverse at that point, and it's led to further contact. So understandably, a lot of drivers will not be happy with that, as this was Tim Perry's view of the incident as he made his way on around. So he's going to come through the corner. He at the time was battling. In fact, he hit the rear of an SRB car before he even made it to the corner. So he had his own incident there, and that collected Mark Hutchinson as well. So drama there for Altitude 3M Esports, and that was on the back of another driver. But understandably, a lot of drama very early on as he towed to the pit lane. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we make our way back to your live racing. And as we do come back, plenty more racing to come, no doubt about that, but definitely a lot of drama to kick this race off. And well, we are only 10 minutes into the race. We've got plenty more to come. And Philip Ansell running away at the very front of the field, and things have calmed down a little bit since we looked at your live pictures. But what have we got battle-wise? And Vidas Andruskevicius will battle in side by side with Victor Chamorro as they make the way on around. As they come through the corners there, well, Shimura still pushing on, and the Enosis Esports shows had a really good start to this race, the privateer. Did not enter in as an official team for this season, but that's the Enosis car. Indeed, Enosis is an absolutely brilliant team, no matter what series they race in. Some of the finest drivers you'll find out there. But as we do see the 269 driver head on through, he's now up into fifth, making that move on Andruskevicius and Chad Hinson. A little bit further behind, but they are split by the lap down car of David Payne, who would like to unlap them if he can, but of course, whilst he's got all that pace, the problem is he's got to find the right place to make that move. And in fact, he does let Henson go instead. Darren Corby battling side by side here with none other than John Ludbrook. Ludbrook's going to go up the inside and take the 37th place spot, so that's going to be a change there, and Ludbrook carried on his way up the order. A bit grateful there, I think, for Corby being so anti-resilient. But meanwhile, whilst all that's going on, we look back up to Brian Beardsworth, who has Talos Vosberg and Ryan Cassidy behind. Right now, he's going to try and keep two pro drivers behind him who are fighting for 13th place, and both had their own unique stories. But Cassidy, of course, lost out massively at the start for Team Endurotech as it went very wrong on the opening 7 corners. He found his way to the grass, got sent down the order, and in a further instance sent him even further down. So therefore, right now, a bit of a frustrated start to the day, but it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. All those drivers will know that, and that's why they'll stay in it to the end to see whether they can pick up some very valuable points. But of course, now the battling does calm down to a degree. And the thing with this VIR circuit, we see a move up the inside by Vosberg on Beardsworth. That's not going to work. Beardsworth outbrakes himself into the roller coaster, and Beardsworth going straight on there. And the GPX Sport Onyx driver will bring himself back on gradually, but that's going to be costly there. And he will lose a club position to his teammate, and that's Gareth Newton. So he'll go down to 6th place in class now, with Kevin Smith trying to chase. Smith's had a decent start. He's not had too many issues. As Vosberg into the pit lane. So Vosberg comes in. I wonder whether that's potentially for an undercut, because we know these fuel tanks can go a very long time. They can, with the right amount of fuel saving, go the best part of 50, as in 50 minutes. But meanwhile, we look to Aramis and Zelinskas, as well as Wilson Liu behind. And Liu's been there now for a couple of laps. I think he's trying to knock on the door, but the problem is we ride aboard the dashboard of the WePay 300 Esports 388 Porsche. Oh, gets very close there. My goodness, does tap the Ford GT on the back. And, well, I think Liu carrying more momentum, and Zelinskas went a little bit deep for 11. And at Oak Tree, turn number 12, which is the actual corner known as Oak Tree, because that's where the tree used to be on the outside, that part of the hairpin, was they made his way on through in the end. Wilson Liu tapping the rear of his rival, and then realising that's not going to work and had to back off immediately, because otherwise he would have turned him around and had his own race go around potentially as well. So a bit of a moment there. And speaking of moments, here's Gianluca Rospo as he battles with Michele Salcuni, the two Italian drivers battling on. And Salcuni in the BMW there, but it's side by side with Benjamin Massey. He's going to go too wide all the way through. And Massey does make it through. My goodness, the pro driver there will show him why he's considered to be a pro driver. Of course, our season 1 Inter champion, and absolutely on the attack here as the youngster as he makes his way on around and roaring his way onwards. Well, Gianluca Rospo definitely right now, I think, seeing that moment and thinking, you know what, am I really going side by side up through the S's? Well, Gianluca, you definitely did, and well, both of you did an incredible job at that. You don't normally see that go that well. But that goes to show the respect and awareness of both drivers. As Salcuni will now be looking at his rearview mirror and thinking, great, I've got that Porsche coming after me, here it comes, and we're going going to dive up the inside there, and Salcuni lets it go. Very tactical there, Salcuni, realising that because Massey had bought him the best part of half a second to Rospo, that he decided to let that go, and he's only lost 2/10 as a result of going for a lift and coast. But meanwhile, into pit lane, Jordan Shamblin, Kevin Smith into the pit lane as well. We've got several drivers coming in very early today, so Shamblin doing the opposite, as in fact, he makes his way back out, or does he? No, he did have a 9.5 second pit stop, so he did a quick splash and dash of fuel. But the point being here, we are seeing some big names go for undercut pit stops, and Jordan Shamblin in particular, I think he's recognised the fact, with the way the race has played out so far, he may as well gamble coming in very early. We'll have to see whether this is going to be the way to get it done or not. Meanwhile, James Bostock and Nathan Healy, these two are very close together here, and right now, the Full Virtual Motorsport drive chases down the GPX Simsport Onyx machine for that final spot on the club podium. Well, Mark Kent seems to be in control of the class, as we do look to your class standings on the left-hand side of your screen. The time count does update itself. Well, still plenty of running from so many drives, including Dwayne Hoffman, who's been making some moves. And well, in fact, we had a couple of moves from Dwayne Hoffman earlier on. We will get a replay of them, including a move on Jaden Innes and also on John Becker. And here they come onwards. Straight up the hill towards the S's, but he's got Becker close behind him right now as Hoffman. He's normally the man making progress, but now how will he stop somebody making progress against him is the question. Well, he's looking quite comfortable there as he comes up the hill and down it and towards the Oak Tree hairpin. Version number 190 driver definitely right now getting on a bit of pace. Rospo versus what is Marcus Clayton. Clayton's caught up to him very quickly. Well, one moment, Clayton was the best part of 3 seconds behind. I think there's been a small mistake from Rospo somewhere. Here comes his fellow Boys Club driver, the Corvette driver going up the inside for Rhino Esports Edge overlays, and I think that's going to be said and done. And Marcus Clayton all in on the brakes. But meanwhile, change further up the road. Overall, but it's more Fleck Club fighting because Ryan Cassidy now puts himself between James Bostock and Nathan Healy. He passes Healy there in towards turn number 1, and Healy will be hoping that Cassidy can be a bit of a nuisance to Bostock and bring him right back to him. At least that'll be the game plan. Meanwhile, we look back up to Arma Salinskas, who's still keeping Wilson Liu, for company behind him. As they come through turns 11 and 12. Right now it does seem as though Wilson Liu on the attack. Can't find a way to pass. That Ford GT just too quick in the places where it needs to be quick, and in the places where it needs to be slow, unfortunately it refuses to do so. Mark Halsbear behind there. You can see Yoku, the Academy driver, leading the interclass very comfortably at the moment by 3.5 seconds over Oliver Kemp. Kemp is not being dropped that easily, so it does seem as though the Concord Motorsport driver is finding a bit more time out there and keeping Kudia Academy on their toes. And it's a further 4 seconds back to Sebastian Schwertweger, and the privateer right now definitely a really good run. He could be on course for his first podium of the season if he gets this right. Meanwhile, well, there's a change for fourth place in the class, as that's Vidas Andruskevicius around the outside to the inside into roller coaster versus Victor Shimoro, and that's going to be an important move being made. Shimoro decides to tuck in behind the Corvette, and I suspect he's focusing on the longer term strategy rather than trying to push his luck right now. His game plan will be to see if he can fuel save and time manage behind the Porsche driver and give himself a better car towards the end of the race. As we do see Chad Henson there flashing his headlights and saying to Victor Shimaro, would you mind letting me through? That is the Morse code there, given the fact they're in different classes. Let's wait and see whether Shimaro is going to be obliging or not. But just behind, that's Renee Mara looking up the inside of Max Wheeler. That will be for 10th place in Pro, but Wheeler's going to try and hold it around the outside to get to the inside of NASCAR bend. Will it work out for him? Well, we'll see. Too wide they come down into the braking zone, and the answer will be Max Wheeler does hold on to it thereabouts as they come up towards left hook. And Wheeler defended well, and Renee Maurer in the end racing fairly, and that's what it's all about. But Wheeler right now definitely making that Ferrari work for him. Even if it's proven to be an unpopular car, he's going to show that it can still be popular in the right hands. John Becker attacking Dwayne Hoffman coming down the start for the straight. This is the 10th in club, and he's going to look around the outside. As the closest he's been, it'll be the first real opportunity he gets now to make this move. And on to the brakes they go, and Hoffman lets it go. He decides not to fight. I think Dwayne might be playing the game of, if I can't beat him, I may as well fuel save with him and goad him back into a mistake of his own, of which he does. And there'll be two wide coming through in towards turn number 3, side by side as they go. And in the end, backing off there before NASCAR Ben, looking perhaps for the switchback. It was left hook, goes a little bit deep to the apex. I think that's just going to give Becker the confidence he can now steal the position. But from one full tilt Virtual Motorsport driver being passed, one is trying to make a pass on James Bostock, and Nathan Healy still close behind. Cassidy closed. In fact, Cassidy's had an off track recently, and I've seen him drop back behind these two when he was trying to clear both of them. So Cassidy's got a bit more work to do down that stretch. As they build up the pace, will we see a potential move here from Healy? I think he's too far back to consider it at the moment, although he would love to, but I think it's got to be more strategy at this point he's got to now start to focus on. As they come towards the end of that run. Well, meanwhile, looking back up to third place overall and in pro, there is Max Chambers ahead of Pedro Luis da Silva, Ansell and Wilson Liu. So Chambers right now already enjoying the battle for the final spot of the pro podium. And Luis da Silva, Zelinskas and Liu all have their own sights set on it. But understanding Chambers with track position here can prove to be just that little bit wider and to make himself a bit of a nuisance, which will be part of the game plan. And again, we do have quite a big strategic window, but would you, as well, these drivers, gamble on pitting so early, knowing that when you do have the best part in terms of the number of runners at the moment in this race, we do have a grand total, I believe, of what is 45 cars still running out of our 49 starters. We have lost Abasek, Tiefri, Tillotson and Hauptke. Would you dare gamble? Well, in fact, we still have Hauptke out, and my apologies, we have 46 runners, not 45, so we've lost 3 drivers. Would you dare gamble coming into the pits and potentially coming out in a train of cars that have yet to pit? And the answer, well, it's probably going to be no. I can show you the times out your top 40 on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see there will be pockets you can fit into, but not easy to do so. But back to fight it here. Clayton on the inside of Rospo for a big club. He's going to take that there in towards NASCAR bend initially, but would he hold it? The answer is yes, as they come through at left hook and into the right-hander. Rospo right now close, but he can't quite make the move happen, at least this time. The runner Esports for Edge Overlay's number 2 driver, definitely hoping he can make a way now, as Rospo's going to stay with him. And Rospo's now going to have a taste of whether he can potentially be the hunter rather than the hunted. Becker, meanwhile, is only 9 tenths behind this, and Hoffman's closing it. Jaden Innes is closing it as well. So we're going to have an interesting fight, and we've got some big names trying to recover the way through the field. None more so than Innes in the club class. So it could lead to a bit of a battle there, as we do see a bit of a fall back. Meanwhile, as we do see Rospo and Becker falling backwards away, we do look there to Greg Hoffman, who still has Innes closing on him little by little. Well, understand the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport drivers needs to have a game plan for this. But meanwhile, whilst all this is going on, we've had a bit of an incident for Tom Bland, because Bland is now at the back of the battle for third place. In fact, the battle for second in the pro class. Bland has lost second place in pro. He's made a mistake of some description. It's a big one as well, because that's a big loss there. And well, he's at the back in 6th place now. That's not where he wants to be whatsoever. And well, what we can do to find out, ladies and gentlemen, we can grab you a replay. And here we go for a trip back in time to explain what exactly happened to Tom Bland. So this was Bland at the time, comfortably running in second overall in pro. Goes sideways out of turn 3. That's nothing to worry about. Under braking into turn 4. The rear of the car let go. I wonder if he touched the grass slightly on the rear right tyre under braking, and that caused the car to come loose. And then he had to rejoin, but he rejoined on the inside of the run in towards the snake. And sadly for him, well, he definitely has been bitten, but not quite at the corner, just before it there. So as he makes his way onwards, well, now he's going to have to really do a lot of work to recover in this one. We also did have a bit of a moment only months ago for Rian Casti after making progress versus the club drivers, including their none other than James Bostock. Went around the outside and under brake, he carried too much momentum into roller coaster, and unfortunately it was a merry-go-round ride that he did not want to enjoy at all, and went to the grass and had to do it all over again. We also did have a bit of drama for Jaden Innes on lap number 9, the lap before. And this was Innes continuing his way through the field at the time, and in the end made his way in towards left hook, touched the grass, and much like what happened to Tom Bland, the car completely went around there, and it sent it all the way back down the field. But whilst it all went backwards to him, well, meanwhile, it went forward for none other than it was Dwayne Hoffman and John Becker, who passed him, albeit off the road was our man of focus. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back to real life racing. Coming back, there's still plenty of time. We're not even halfway through the race at the moment, but definitely has been a race that has been packed full of dramatic moments. I'm sure there's going to be more of those before the day is done. Speaking of which, well, Emerson Linskus and Max Chambers, they're pulling away from the fight for fourth as Pedro Luis da Silva now has Wilson Liu for company. So Zelinskas has found his way recently past Luis da Silva, and there's a move up the inside. Bland dives up the inside there. My goodness, he could not have gone for anything later than that. And I think Wilson Liu probably looked at his right-hand window and thought he's not going for it, surely. And then suddenly he's there. Bland right now, he's not here to play. He is not hanging around. He knows he's got the pace for second, but he's going to have to work very hard. And as he makes his way down towards, or up we should say, in towards the roller coaster, well, he's, I think, hoping right now that he can get these moves done before Chambers is able to really open up a gap in second place. But there you can see the ball with a single picture shot as it all made the way down in towards Hogpen Bend. So Bland here has got double the work to do, but to be fair, he's going to dig in and give it everything. Meanwhile, Mark Calbert just behind the lead group, currently runs 7th overall, but your leader in the interclass, and with a 4.5 second gap to Oliver Kemp. He looks to be relatively safe. There's Kemp in the rear of the picture. He can't quite stay with him, but he is staying within earshot. Meanwhile, Max Wheeler still chasing after Rene Maurer. Maurer put the move on him in towards turn 1 earlier on, or tried to. They were battling too wide, but since then Maurer has found the move on the Ferrari driver. The three-wheeler racing machine still trying to push on as much as possible. Now, one driver we haven't talked about today, Matthew Massey, the Spectre Racing driver. He's really been in his element. He's second in the club class. He's gone under the radar a little bit, understandably so, because he stayed out of trouble in the opening few laps, and he's moved from 4th to 2nd, and since then, he's been putting a very good race together. Now, he's not quite able to stay with Mark Kent, who's 9 seconds up the road, but right now he is maintaining a healthy 4-second gap to James Bostock, who in turn has got 2.5 seconds over Nathan Healy. Healy has lost out a little bit. I suspect there's perhaps been a bit of a mistake for Healy somewhere, that should have led to that gap being reached open a little bit more. But meanwhile, as we do look back up the road, we're going to be looking to, I believe, the machinery of Max Dean, who has had a bit of an error at turn 4 into 5, so the car's gone round, and the privateer, who's already had a bit of a difficult day, with the difficulties added to, that is going to be coming up behind him. Mark Kent's put a lap on him, and that will be the man 18th putting the move on the driver who in 41st place. So Dean right now, I think, just trying to keep his head down and carry on in the lovely livery machine. But unfortunately, livery's not going to win any prizes today. Meanwhile, move here as that's keep Pedro Lisa still defending. There's contact between himself and Tom Bland. Bland trying to go around the outside, and Wilson Liu picks off both of them there. And I think he's going to have a small smile on his face as the Chinese driver, in the fact and they'll be grateful for the fact he didn't have to worry about it. Hold up, that's Tom Bland roaring his way back onto the road. Well, he's going to pick up a slowdown for that, and he's going to come into the pit lane. But I think with the damage he's picked up, he's willing to risk the slowdown and just simply come in and get some repair work done to the car. My goodness there. Well, that rejoin definitely was a bit of a scary one, but he timed it right. Luis de Silva losing out, and Mark Calsbear right behind. We'll have to get a replay of that. But Bland is into the pit lane. I wonder how long that pit stop is going to be, because of the damage he's picked up, well, the fast repair should be able to get rid of it very quickly. But I just wonder if there's going to be an overhang with regards to his cut of the circuit, whether he might get a stop and hold for that. Although normally it would be a slowdown, but if he's not served the slowdown and he's in the pit lane, it may get upgraded to at least a drive-through penalty. So that's going to be his mind. But if Bland's got rid of it, this could be a strategic masterclass from Bland. So then come into the pit, get the pit stop done, although the car is being held there at the moment. So I think Bland may have picked up a penalty for the way he's come back on. Understand he's lost out quite considerably. She would not be having more than about a 10 to 15 second stop at most. We're not expecting anyone to change tyres here today. So Bland might be out of this race in terms of battling for the lead, as VIR Pedro de Silva now settles down. And we'll get a replay of their contact very shortly. And in fact, that replay is coming up now, ladies and gentlemen, to make our way back in time. So this was Tom Bland looking for a potential move on Pedro de Silva, and as they roared their way into his roller coaster, went around inside to outside line. De Silva touched the grass there, made a mistake, and innocent contact. But the problem is, then Bland carrying his way down the hill, he decided not to rejoin, or picked up the speed here. And well, this goes to show you that whilst he may have slick tyres on the car, you can rally across the GTE, and he rejoined. I suspect that cuts the course. Definitely has had implications with regards to his races. Also, he did cut the pit entry line there, the yellow and green runoff area, and well, you do that, you do pick up an unsafe pit entry. So I think he's picked up a 40-second stop and hold for that, as we do make your way back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. So that would explain the story there, why Bland has had an extended pit stop. If they are able to repair the car, well, as the car continues to sit in the pit lane there, it may be over and done, to be fair, if the impact's been too hot. Meanwhile, what's happening elsewhere? And the answer is, well, James Bostock's had a bit of a moment, we believe. In fact, he lost out to Jordan Shamley. He's lost several places, has Bostock. So Bostock's had a bit of an off. I believe that's happened at Oak Tree Bend quite recently, as Matthew Massey is into the pit lane from what was second place strategically in the club class. There's Mark Kent going back on to retake the leader club, so he has pitted. Meanwhile, Matthew Massey is into the pit. We believe that's the order, and then Nathan Healy's going to come on. But Massey right now spending some time in the pit lane, car parked up there, and we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. But as the drivers make the way on down, Healy's going to take the second place spot in club for the time being, and James Bostock comes through with him. But now Healy's caught behind Massey and has got Jordan Shamlin closing on him, plus Gavin Corby there goes lap down in amongst them all. So it's getting a bit crowded. Behind, we do have John Becker chasing after Mikel Salcuni. As they make the way up towards turn number 1, well, Matthew Massey's car is still being serviced. I wonder if he's picked up a penalty in the pit lane, so I don't see that car up on the jacks. Meanwhile, we can see back on the inside here. Can he get this move done for Sixth Club? The answer is going to be yes, he can. Lovely move up the inside. So he does have a response coming out to 1. Now as they make the way into the NASCAR bend, I think Becker making that another place up and carried on a brilliant journey. As he makes his way around and in towards left hook. His next target will be Brian Beardsworth, 15 seconds away. And for Massey, that car's not leaving the pit lane. Massey's been there now more than 40 seconds. I think there's an issue for the Spectre Racing team, and that is gutting if so, because of Matthew Massey. It was looking so good for a second place finish here today, and Sonny Drama is going to take it away. But meanwhile, as we do look to Max Chambers, run his way on around. He's currently second overall at it pro, and he's got Ansell all over the back of him. Ansell here trying to make amends for difficulties at Bathurst and doing a very good job of it so far, but Wilson Liu is proving to be quicker than the pair of them. So right now, the We Pay 300 esports driver, he could yet play a role here. Can he maintain his streak of second places? Whilst Ansell seems to be on course to maintain his streak of wins. So they'll definitely be number 1 and number 2 in the championship in many regards, but quite literally in terms of their finishing positions as they head up the hill. Right now, Pedro Elise da Silva 2 seconds behind in a Porsche. It's definitely sporting some damage on the left-hand side after his contact into roller coaster with Tom Bland. Well, he's carrying on there, and the car seems to be okay. I suspect it was an innocent mistake, and Elise da Silva tried to defend it, but unfortunately touched the grass on the inside on entry into the corner, and in the end that carried the car forward. And at that point, if you put the brakes on, you're going to lock up, you make it worse. So you essentially have to feather off the brake and try to reapply and just minimise the rate of impact. Whilst it may be going a little bit quiet towards the front of the field, Will Salcuni, after losing out to Becker, now has Gianluca Rospo and Jaden Innes behind. And they're all queuing up. Towns Vosberg's on the back of this group as well. It is getting very busy in the hunt for 26th place overall, with Becker right now trying to run away a bit as Gianluca Rospo looking for a move on his fellow Italian driver. It's not going to work there as he comes out of turn number 1. He's definitely pushing hard as they roll the way in towards turn number 3. And we're thinking about cutting back to the inside there, but not close enough to really make that adventure. And the game plan instead for the Deep Motorsport driver is to just be that little bit more patient. So going out to left hook and through the right before they do head to the snake. And we can see the body language of the cars here. Rosway is definitely going to be a bit tighter. I think the dirty off the back of that BMW just hurt him through the corners. But now on the straight, he'll gain little by little here. But as he does near his rival, Renault's the S's, is he going to try going too wide? He did it with none other than Benjamin Massey earlier on. But doing it versus where your own rivals could be just a little bit more difficult as he comes down through South Bend and backs off there, does Rospo 9. It's not worth risking it, particularly when strategy is going to become key very soon. A lovely livery car, no doubt about it. I do love on the side there as well the livery of the car, and I do believe there's some Japanese characters on there. Well, I couldn't tell you what it says, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, Japanese is not that good. But meanwhile, as we do say, none other than Konichiwa to Max Chambers will make his way on towards what will be turn number 11 and turn 12. Well, the 356 driver here still holding off Amasalinskis, but as he makes his way on out the corner at the moment, it's anything but Daijobu right now. I'm going to stop using Japanese words, and Daijobu meaning okay in Japanese. It has several different meanings, and as they do make their way on the back straight, well, Zalinskis right now definitely hurrying up here in the Ford GT and looking for a move, but Chambers going a bit defensive. It's not going to be close enough, however, and right now Zalinskis is having just to wait that little bit longer, but he's itching for a move, no doubt about it. He wants to make it, as that's Rospo, who we've just seen cut through the camera angle. I think he's been in contact with Taus Vosberg. Alternatively, they've had separate instance. But definitely it's been a bit of a moment there for the drivers. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can. As meanwhile, Christophe Dubois, he's chasing after Tim Perry for 29th place. Now, do bear in mind, of course, that both these drivers caught up an instance, particularly Dubois with that quite intriguing instant on the end of the open lap. And again, as he goes sideways there through turn number 3, where his race does brush the tyre barrier. Front left tyre does hit it, and I think that car's going to be towed to the pits there with that knock. It is going to be a tow, unfortunately, for Dubois, and will the bad luck and the difficulties continue? And I do feel for Christophe in the fact that I think he meant nothing bad of what happened at the start of the race, but unfortunately, much like a set of dominoes, when one falls, they all fall. And for Dubois, really today, this has been one of those rounds where everything has just fallen apart. Now, as they make their way onwards, well, meanwhile, Kai Hitchler chasing after Max Wheeler for 10th place in Pro. And, well, these two still fighting each other. They've been fighting back and forth non-stop for the entirety of the race. One man is Wheeler ahead, then the next one it's Hitchler ahead, and Renee Mount also there. So the Leopard Esports team, they found themselves getting stuck behind a three-wheeler racing car, and Wheeler switched, of course, from the BMW to the Ferrari. Indeed, he's given up the BMW that had Audi power in it because it was covered in the 4 rings of Audi, and instead he's gone from Dutchman Vought Technic into what is the Tifosi machine as he roars his way onwards. But can the Prancing Horse keep it alive for 10th place in the Pro Class today? He's got 26 minutes of the final lap to find out. he tries to make that happen, and a happy conclusion. Well, what's happening elsewhere? Well, elsewhere we do have Pedro Luis da Silva under pressure on Mark Kelsbear still, although Kelsbear at this point still gapping Oliver Kemp. He's opened that gap up to 6 seconds now. So I think for Kelsbear, this is just simply ride the back of the Portuguese driver and just make sure you save as much fuel as possible and to give yourself as much strategic opportunities as possible versus Oliver Kemp. Max Chambers, meanwhile, we is still being furiously chased by Aaron Zelinskas. And Zelinskas here close again, but Chambers goes defensive into turn 1. Zelinskas is going to look around the outside, and the Concord Motorsport driver now knowing he's going to park the bus at every single corner, and that's going to cost him more time to Ansell, but it will also gradually bring Wilson Liu into this fight. But there goes Zelinskas up the inside. He dives all in into NASCAR bend. They touch, but in the end, well, they're going to be very fair to each other. And Zelinskas goes defensive. Chambers tries to beat into the break. So they both go deep in towards left hook and coming through the right-hander right now. Zelinskas gets that move done. It was bold, it was brave, it was daring, it was all of the three. And I can tell you one thing, the 3-1-3 driver right now, Zelinskas, he is not wanting to sit behind Chambers any longer. He knows what's coming up behind the WePay 300 esports car of Liu. If that fights him again, I think he's worried the fact he will lose the place and he'll never get it back. So therefore he had to go for that move at the last possible moment. The SRB Motorsport by Linz Vega driver left it all to last minute, but credit where it's due to Max Chambers behind him. He went with it, he made a battle, and it continues as they come out of Oak Tree Bend, and Zelinskas goes deep. I don't believe he's going to lose both places, as that means now that Sonny Wilson Liu will move into third, and Max Chambers will now feel as though he's got even more pressure. He'll say, great, they've multiplied behind me, rather than just being one try attacking, it's now two. But at this point, what do you do if you're Max Chambers? What do you do if you're Wilson Liu or Zelinskas? Do you come into the pits and potentially now throw it all into the air and go for an undercut strategy on your rivals, or do you stay out and continue the fight? Because remember, the more you fight, the more time you're going to lose, particularly when Pedro Luis da Silva is 4 seconds behind. He's not catching at the moment, but they fight as hard as they are going to see him catch up quite quickly. Where they come to the start finish straight, nobody wants to pit, nobody wants the risk of being caught out behind drivers who've yet to pit, so it's understandable, particularly with how short the pit stop is today. They will be coming right back into the field as they make the way up towards what will be turn number 1. Well, right now, Chambers is in second place still, but Wilson Liu now trying to take a bit of a peck at him. Will he be able to do so and knock him down the pecking order? We'll have to see, because Nathan Healy, meanwhile, still carrying on his journey in second place in the club class. And James Bostock too far behind to try and get involved, but Healy trying to make it a 1-2 alongside Mark Kent for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. Can they make it happen today? It was a 1-3 last time out at Bathurst. They would love to be able to make it a 1-2. It'd be a huge result for them. But something tells me that Bostock will be itching to see if he can find a way to get back at him. But Bostock is 6 seconds behind. So if Bostock's going to make this happen, he's going to need to go some way, or he's going to need Healy to have a mistake of some description. Albeit we'll have to see where Bostock can make it happen. So I think that win streak is going to come to an end for Bostock. I don't think he's going to be able to maintain it, given the gap to Mark Kent. But then again, you never know. It's not over until we see the checkered flag. And of course, each driver passes it. That's the important part. But as he makes his way onwards, we'll see what he can next do as his teammate of Gareth Newton for GPX SimSport Vertex, carrying on in full place in club with Brian Beardsworth, another GPX SimSport car, 4 seconds behind, and it's 13 seconds to John Becker, who's definitely chasing them all down, and Becker's pace right now is only second to Mark Kent in the club class, so Becker's definitely going to be one to watch out for. But as the battling in the club class definitely now is more strategic rather than on track, well, don't you worry, we've got you covered with plenty of battling here as Chambers, Liu and Zelinskas head down towards the end of what is their 22nd tour of the circuit, and they've got plenty more laps still to come. But Chambers right now keeping it together here at the Concord Motorsport driver, trying to do his own major performance. He's trying to do his own version of Jordan Chamberlain here today, and we're looking good so far. But of course, what's also looking good is Wilson Design. We pay 300 esports livery machine behind him, and Wilson Liu only now 1 place away from making it another second place if he can make this move happen. But he's really having to work hard to do it as he gets very close there, coming out of the horseshoe. Looking to the outside into NASCAR, but he's trying to set up a switchback here, trying to get Chambers to intentionally run deep by design, by outbraking himself. That's not going to work, but now here comes Liu, looks up the inside, and well, much like Zelinskas went for it a couple of laps ago. Too wide, however, coming into the right-hander, and now into the snake they go. Who will be rattled by it? And the answer is going to be nobody, as in the end it will be Chambers who just holds off Liu, and Zelinskas is right there as we ride aboard the dashboard. Or your 3-1-3 driver, and remember, of course, only what was a few laps ago, he managed to make the pass there before they got to the snake, but it all went wrong at Oak Tree Bend, went too deep, locked up the front brake, the front left in particular, and well, he's nursed that brake back down to a cooler temperature, and now looking to to get involved, but this battle absolutely brilliant. It is on a knife edge of this fight, and we'll say all coming through. You can see there the drivers literally going as late as possible into that braking zone. They're carrying the car out the corner in order to be able to make that late apex in turn number 12, and we'll get that wrong by a millimetre, and they will be going wide, and that will open up an opportunity. As we do see the Zelenskis taking a bit more of a pronounced line around the now lap down Mark Hutchinson mobile. I think the understanding there is Zelenskis just trying to make it very clear to him he wants no role to play in terms of getting into an altercation with the Altitude 3 Esports driver. He just wants that clear pass going down the hill. No change between these drivers at the moment, but Chambers again still under that pressure. And well, Brian Beardsworth is now into the pit lane. So we've got a pit stop for Beardsworth from what was at the time 5th place in the club class. That promotes John Becker, but we do believe that Becker still has a pit stop to go. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how all the club classes are going to fit together and who will be in the rest of that top 5 outside of the race leader. There's Liu looking to the outside again. A good run here from Liu. Onto the brakes he goes. Is it going to work out? No, not quite. He's going to sit behind. Still always he's poking, he's probing. Chambers goes defensive here. He has to go defensive to NASCAR bend because Liu right now thinking, okay, I've got the momentum here. This is where Liu is so strong coming through the opening sector. And where he doesn't dive up the inside this time, he keeps Chambers guessing. Chambers goes a little bit deep. Liu gets much closer down corner exit. And we're powering the way onwards. We ride aboard with your number 388. And will the WePay 300 Esports drive bounce his way between the curves? As Renee Maurer, as I look at my Conte booth window, makes his way down the pit lane. I can hear the BMW before I see it. And well, meanwhile, we continue to see here Wilson Liu's Porsche go on the attack versus the Porsche Chambers, but it's not working out. The forward GT of Zelenskis always behind, waiting in the wings to get involved. And into that braking zone for Oak Tree. They go rolling the way through. And again, no change at the moment. Wilson Liu just staying behind there and indeed trying to find a way in. He's going to need to find a plan B. So this will work out here even with the draft down the backstretch. But something may tell me that Max Chambers is perhaps running the car slightly less rear wing or what is more aggressive gearing for the straight. And the reason for that is the fact that look at how Liu is not catching him at all. Zelenskis meanwhile is catching up to Liu. That's how you normally tell. And whilst there will be some fuel saving there, some of you would say, I think for the whole length of that stretch, which is the best part, 3/4 of a kilometre, or indeed in miles, that's going to be the best part there. Approximately about 0.45 miles. I appreciate we are in the US of A. Well, I understand that our drivers right now may find it out. Their setups are a little bit different, and particularly Chambers with a less downforce focused car is able to hold on the stretches, but he loses time in the corners, and that's why Liu is getting closer and closer little by little. It's why he can be so much more aggressive and assertive on the brakes, is because he has the downforce to back the car up, but not this time, as we do leave them behind. And meanwhile, we come back to Max Wheeler all over the back of Kai Hitchler. So Hitchler's found his way ahead off camera, and Wheeler's now trying to come back at him. That's not going to work necessarily initially as they make their way down the hill. Meanwhile, John Shamlin and Sebastian Schwertberger, they swap places. So Shamlin up into 5th place now. Schwertberger going a little bit wide coming out of Oak Tree hairpin, and Shamlin moving onwards, still trying to recover some places, but the Concord Motorsport driver, it's not about how the day started for him either, it's about how he's going to finish it, and he's going to try and finish it with a top 5 performance and get some valuable points in the Interclass, as definitely right now the Inter Championship will be blown wide open should this continue, and given Mark Calsbear taking the win today, well, that'd shore him up a little bit. Remember, we do have a drop score over the season, excluding the season finale round, so therefore the drivers want to get every single point they can on the board. But meanwhile, that's Zelenskis, and where enough is that? I believe that's the Oak Tree. Just dived at the inside of Wilson Liu. Now, with them, we've also got a bit of a scramble going on behind, because that's Mikhail Salkudi making his way past Mark Hutchinson or trying to hold him off. They're fighting over 29th place. They are a lap down the group in front, but Zelenskis has found his way back ahead of Wilson Liu. We need to see how that was done. So, as we do see Hutchinson going up the inside of Salkudi for that 29th place spot, he'll dive up the inside there in the Ford GT. We take a quick look back at what exactly happened, ladies and gentlemen, and here is your quick replay. Albeit first, of course, we do have a replay of what happened to Taos Vosberg and Gianluca back on lap number 18. Gianluca Rospo, that is. And this was both of them coming in towards the roller coaster, and sadly Gianluca just going a little bit too deep on the brakes, and he didn't make contact with Vosberg, and that got a little bit messy between the two of them. They got hooked on each other, and I think there was no malice meant there, but definitely both drivers having a degree of frustration. And it is a mistake from Rospo, but it added up to something a little bit more what was tricky. But this was only moments ago. This was Armas Zelenskis making a move on Wilson Liu. So what happened Well, they count behind Salcuni, and Liu looked down the outside there on Chambers. Chambers dived up the inside to Salcuni, and unfortunately, Salcuni had gone wide by design there to let them all go, and Wilson Liu happened to be in the wrong place at the right time to lose out. So in the end, you could see what Wilson Liu wanted to do, but unfortunately, Salcuni pulled aside as he was expected perhaps to do so, those blue flags, and Liu in the end, he just happened to be confronted with a car that's going a lap down. He had no way of doing that, and indeed, he won't be going down the garages screaming at Salcuni about that one. It's just a situation that's just not worked out for him at all. Whilst that happened in parallel, this was John Shamlin passing Sebastian Schwertfeger. Schwertfeger was 9/10 up the road. This was into Oak Tree. Lost the rear of the car there briefly. Well done to Schwertfeger for catching that car. That could have gone round, but that is how Shamlin made that move. So a bit of a mistake there, but to be fair, corrected it very quickly. And we also did have what was Max Wheeler being passed by Kai Hitchler on lap 22. And this was the battle between them. And this was, I believe, Wheeler coming in towards NASCAR bend. Did he go a little bit wrong? Yes, he went deep, went wide, and that's how Hitchler got past. But now, since then, Wheeler has caught back up to Hitchler. So with that, it's back to your live racing. We go, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do come back, well, we still got just over a quarter of the race remaining, and we've still got the question of how many pit stops are we going to see and when are we going to see them? Well, I think we know the answer. This is a one-stop race. And I suspect we're going to see a whole deluge of pit stops within the next approximately 5 to 7 minutes, given the fact that everyone is trying to run those fuel tanks as long as humanly possible. Max Chambers, Aaron Solinskas and Wilson Liu are definitely at the centre of our screen once again. They're enjoying an absolutely brilliant battle, these drivers. Well, rolling them out, and we should point out there is a bit of strategic change in the club class. More on that very shortly. And we did just see a bit of run wider from John Becker in the rear of the picture. But if we can just take our attention from this second place battle in for a brief moment, I don't think we can. There. Good help us the battle it is, but I think we will be able to. Well, interesting strategic split. Nathan Healy, who you see here, 5th in club. Now, he was battling with James Bostock for the second place spot in club, but he has pitted. He pitted was approximately 2 laps ago. Bostock is still out there, but remember, Bostock was the best part of 6 seconds behind when the pit stop was made, given the fact that he had been elbowed down the order and also made a mistake. So, can we see these two close up? We'll have to wait and find out. Meanwhile, John Becker taking a bit of a trip wide there. He has pitted as well. So now he's chasing position as we... Well, in fact, no, he's not pitted, so I think he's still yet to pit. But Mark Kent makes way into the pits and leaves. And as he does so, Bostock goes on to lead at least 1 lap of the club race. Gareth Newton is in as well. Newton making his way on down, and behind him, that is your overall leader. Philip Ansell comes in from the lead, 20 seconds ahead of everybody, so he's going to be very comfortable there as Chambers, Solinskas and Liu coming around. Will they be pinning into the pit lane? And the answer to that question is no, they do not. As coming in, that is going to be Jaden Innes make his way in for Cuda Motorsports. And well, as we do see Chambers heading on down, flashes headlights there to the SRB machine. And well, saying thank you very much for staying aside, and we see Wilson Liu a bit further back. And I wonder whether Liu's perhaps saving some fuel now, knowing the only way he's going to win this battle is by being quicker on the fuel gun. Well, we'll have to see whether that's the game plan. Meanwhile, what else is happening out there? With a few more pit stops to come, Renee Maurer is all over the back of Bostock right now as they come down the hill. And Kai Hitchler 1.2 seconds back, bringing with him Mark Kent. Meanwhile, Max Wheeler has not pitted, whereas all these drivers have, excluding Bostock. So therefore, it does mean Renee Maurer would like to get on through. Jan Lynx is splitting the lead per esports cars, albeit he is a lap down, as Mark Kalsberg leaves the pit lane. So your leader in from the lead of the interclass. He does lose the ability to lead every lap because Oliver Kemp goes on another lap. But to be fair, Kalsberg buys himself a clear track, and he'll be very happy with that as Victor Shimura comes up behind. But Shimura still does have to serve a pit stop, as does Vidas and Juskevicius. So therefore, they will fall down the order a bit later. Benjamin Massey and Max Wheeler both into the pit lane. Where's Wheeler going to come out in relation to what will be the Leopard Esports cars? Here's Kai Hitchler make his way on around. Renee Maurer is just at the front of that group. Is Wheeler going to jump them? I think he might here. This is going to be close, but I think Wheeler is going to get the jump. Here comes Renee Maurer down the straight, and as he does so, I think Wheeler has pulled it off. No, he hasn't. Not to Maurer. Has he beaten? What is there? Kai Hitchler? No, not quite either. Just short of it. We thought he might have got the double jump there on the 2 Leopard Esports BMWs, but Wheeler loses out to both of them. He falls backwards there to just outside of the top 10 in Pro class, if my memory of track positions is correct. But as he heads on around, or I should say strategic positions, James Bostock here. Now as he serves his pit stop, well, he makes way out. Where's Nathan Healy? Haley's a long way back. We've got quite a crowd. In fact, that's the battle for second overall coming into the pit lane. So we're going to try and keep up to date with all this. Bostock leaves. And in fact, Bostock has jumped ahead of Nathan Healy. And he's just done it by the best part of what is around about, I want to say, half a second. A big lock up of Bostock. However, he goes straight on. He goes to the cross. He got it all done. And Sonny throws it all away. And Nathan Healy right now on the full Talk Motorsport team. The team on the wall going to be jumping up and down, screaming in joy over that. In the fact they might be able to make this 1-2 happen because they probably had their hands over their mouths in dismay, wondering how on earth Bostock has triggered a 7-second strategic swing, and in the end suddenly Bostock locks up into turn 1 and the GPX's Onyx driver holds onto third still, but that's not the way he wanted it to go. But meanwhile, out of the pit lane, that battle for second place in pro. Chambers has come out ahead of Liu. Pedro Lee de Silva's come out. And Zelinskas is still being serviced. He's not. He's got to stop an old penalty. Zelinskas cut the pit entry line from what we're hearing in our ear. And he's lost out. In fact, we can get you a quick replay of that, ladies and gentlemen. And here we go to explain what exactly has happened to Aaron Zelinskas. But it's not a happy moment as he leaves the pit. But he's going to be absolutely fuming with how this has happened. And well, here is your replay to explain. So this was Zelinskas making his way on down. In fact, that's not the start of him coming into the pit lane. Can we actually get the start of it? So you can see how crowded it was between all the drivers. We'll give us a brief moment. We might be able to see what exactly happened there and your answers to that moment. Well, here we go. So we take a look back a little bit earlier on. And this was the trio making the way onwards. So they were still fighting each other as they made the way down the back stretch. We're going to have to take a bit of an extended replay here to really give you the context. But it was still Chambers ahead of Zelinskas and Liu. Bearing in mind, of course, that they had yet to pit and Philip Ansell had pitted. So Ansell was only 7 seconds behind this battle. You may see him coming over the hill in the background very briefly. There he is, in fact. As they made the way on through, and Pedro Lee de Silva almost with them as well. Well, Chambers there finding himself being caught up behind the Verano Esports Edge Overlays car. I think that's Kevin Smith just in front, and then they made the way into the pits. But as they did, well, Zelinskas went around the outside, but he went to the runoff area there, and that's a no-no. That is immediately a 40-second stop and hold. He wanted to try and overtake Chambers, who broke quite early for the pit lane, and Zelinskas has just lost out. That explains it as we make our way back to your live racing. And as we do coming back, well, right now, still a little bit more time left in this race. Still plenty of excitement left in this race as well. I mean, this race has just kept on giving, ladies and gentlemen. And right now, I'll tell you one thing, I'm going to need a Strepsil or two after this one because I think my voice is getting ready to give up. But meanwhile, as Max Wheeler chases after Kai Hitchler and Renee Maurer, the battle here to be what we believe is 9th in the Pro class rages on between the trio, and Wheeler is coming back here versus the BMWs all over the back of Hitchler as they come down the hill. More pit stops playing out as we do have Shimari and Andrzejewicz in, and they will fall down the order gradually, we believe, but we stay on board with Wheeler as he continues to play the attack versus the Lifepet Esports machinery. And in towards the turn 1 braking zone they go, and Neymar right now into this what is deal with the two interdrives who've just come out of the pit lane, Shimari and Andrzejewicz. That's going to create a bit of a headache for him. Rolled away off. Off camera, Aramis Zelinskas has just passed Chad Henson, so he's already back up to 7th in the Pro class. That'll be for 10th place overall, so some work going in there. And as they come out of the quarters, Wheeler right now just not quite able to make a move as we do ride on board with your number 323 driver, but you can see that long train of cars here, all of them on the lead lap as well, so they're all fighting for overall position, and Wheeler at the very back of it. He's going to need to find some magic here if he wants to get this done, albeit as he heads underneath the gantry bridge. From is the three-wheeler racing drivers coming to a section of the circuit where Ferrari will be quicker than the BMW, but it's not enough width on the circuit to be able to go for a move unless he's already too wide on the stretch. But the BMW will always outrun him there unless he gets a really good corner exit. Well, in fact, I think Mao's struggling a little bit for time at the moment, as in fact I would say that Wheeler here is being brought onto the back of Hitchler with Renee Maurer having difficulty through the S's and South Bend, and Hitchler right now I think might be on the radio to his teammates saying, do we need to swap the places because Wheeler's getting very close right now and I'm not feeling too comfortable with this. Well, I think this problem that it's going to be Hitchler having to act as the rear guard all the way to the end as they head up towards the roller coaster. As Jan Linson amongst them all, so he is a lap down, but still he's trying to do his best here to unlap himself. Queue up together. They're very tight this pack at the moment, and indeed just takes one mistake and the driver could lose out considerably as they roll the way towards what will be their 31st tour of the circuit. But as they do, we come back to Oliver Kemp, and in fact Kemp, as a result of going long, has leapt ahead of Mark Calsbear. So this is a change lead to lead. Kemp decided to go the longest of everybody in the interclass by the best part of 2 laps, and he's taking his pit stop on what was, I believe, at lap number 29. He's left Kelsberg, but only just, because there's Kelsberg right behind. Now, how exactly will Kemp hold on here? Kelsberg had no place to fuel save. Kemp has done a lot of fuel saving by comparison, and that's how he's triggered the swing in the pit lane. But now he's got to try and prove he can keep the Academy driver behind. If he's able to do this, it definitely will be an absolutely brilliant overhaul for the Concord Motorsport driver. He's coming around. Indeed, we're glad we picked up on that change in the nick of time there, because we thought we might have missed it otherwise. And we're making the way down the back straight here. You can see he kept having to literally weave down the straight, trying to break the toe. But the problem is, that's a double-edged sword, because yes, you theoretically break the slipstream. What you also do is you make the straight jagged. When you make a straight jagged, you make it longer, because of course the shortest distance between A and B is a straight line. And Oliver Kemp right now will know that every time he breaks that straight line, he's just extending that straight a little bit longer and giving Kelsberg the opportunity to close that little bit more. As he comes down the hill, just in front of him, that is going to be the car of Jaden Innes. And well, as much as Jaden Innes is for Cuda Motorsport, and well, secretly, Kelsberg may be hoping that perhaps Innes doesn't make it the easiest opportunity for Kemp to come through. I suspect he will have to do so. But before that, well, Kelsberg is not thinking about that at all, because he's going to be making a move here around the outside. As he's going to look in towards turn number 1 and into a NASCAR bend. Understandably, he's going to try and go and set up a move as they roll the way back now towards what will be the NASCAR corner. Horseshoe was the first one, and now looking from one side to the other. He's going to try and go for the dive here, but Kemp sees it coming. He knows exactly what Kelsberg is trying to do here. That was smart driving from both drivers there. They read each other like a book, and well, now as they make the way in towards turn number 5, well, Kemp catches up to the back of Jaden Innes. Not at a good time. Not through the S's, not through the snake. This is not where you want a car in front of you. This is going to cost him a lot of front end downforce, and the problem is, and I mean this literally, for Innes, he can't really get away at this point. He can't get out of the way either because of how tight it is through this section. So therefore, Kemp is going to be made to wait, albeit the Concord Motorsport driver will understand that in the heat of the moment, I think he'll be saying a few words under his visor, as we do see Innes running a bit wide there, and I think panicking to try and get out of the way of this battle. But here comes Kelsberg around the outside. He's going to try and do it for Oak Tree Bend. He's still there, but he's going to back out there on exit, trying to get a better line now on the run up the hill, and Kemp hold on. It's been for the lead and the win in the interclass, and indeed Kelsberg seems set throughout the race, but right now Oliver Kemp literally going on the defensive as much as humanly possible, makes his way on past there Jaden Innes, and Innes in the end being fair to both drivers and making sure not to impede the battle any more than he was forced to impede it. And well, to be fair, that's exactly how it's worked out, and Kelsberg right now will be happy because he gets to take on Oliver Kemp one-on-one, and this is what we love to see in GT races. They roar the way on down for the quarters here, and right now Kemp knows with 5.5 minutes to go, with Philip Ansell already onto lap 33. We have got lap 33 plus probably another 2 more to see who will be your winner and intern indeed across all 3 of our classes. But the class lead battles in pro and club seem to be settled, as here is Oliver Kemp just simply going to the natural racing line, and Kelsberg a bit too far behind this time into the horseshoe. But other battles that do need to be settled, of course, the battle for 9th place in pro between Renee Maurer, Kai Hitchler and Max Wheeler, with Rhiannon Cassidy getting onto the back of that. And meanwhile, we do have what's a bit of a growing Enterprise battle, I do believe, for none other than 4th place in Inter between Victor Shimaro and what is none other than Vidas Andruskevicius. We'll come to that when we do so, ladies and gentlemen. But this battle right now for leading the Interclass, staying firmly transfixed to our screens as they power their way on towards the S's once again. Kelsberg free 10th line this time, and well, understandably, it's going to be one of those situations whereby Kemp right now can just hold his position, as in fact Victor Shimara's had a bit of an instant. He's off on the grass there, and well, that's at turn 1 at Horseshoe. He's gone wide. We'll have to try and get a replay of that to explain what's happened there shortly, but indeed as he brings it back together, we come back to the interlead, at least for the ride on the back stretch. And well, will Kelsberg this time a better ride? He has had a very good launch out the corner, and here in the drive, Kelsberg gets closer and closer as he makes his way onwards. 2 tenths is the gap, but that gap is actually expanding. So, well, there's multiple theories here. Now, will Kelsberg be fuel saving? I don't think he would. He did have a 12.5 second stationary stop, so in doing so, he would have taken the fuel to get to the end, as Kemp not too happy for the braking zone there. I think that explains it. It gets very close coming out to the roller coaster, in towards Hogpen they go, and the explanation for this is that Oliver Kemp right now, I think, is running a car with a lot less downforce or a much taller gear stack, but it's not good in the corners. It makes one out, and here comes Kelsberg on the inside. It's a run all the way towards Horseshoe Bend here, and will he be finding luck there as they make the way onwards, where it's going to be 3 wide for a brief moment as they make the way over a lap down car, and in the end it's going to be Kemp going defensively into the braking zone. Kelsberg taps him on the rear on the braking, they slide loose, and Kelsberg goes down the hill. He's got to bring it back on now. Can he do so? Well, to be fair, he's not got to worry about losing place into drivers, but there's contact between them, and Kelsberg lose out in the end, and what a moment between them. Now, I think they're both drivers We're actually fighting right on the limit of what was legal, and I think there might be some questions of who moved where on the braking, but what a moment between the two. And well, we take a look back at exactly what happened there now, ladies and gentlemen, with a quick replay, of course. So this was the battle as they made the way around, and looking from our exterior cameras, well, Carlsberg gets in the better run out of turn 17A, and he thought he'd got the run initially in towards turn 1. But you'll see here with what was kept being offered the slipstream off of the lap down car, the side draft, it just enabled him to squeeze ahead. But under braking, he cut across the front. Carlsberg swapped to the other side, then locked up on the front right, but he tried to go for the switchback there, thinking that Kemp was going to outbrake himself. So both drivers went late on the brakes than they normally would, but unfortunately for Mark Carlsberg, locked up on the front left, went for a switchback that wasn't going to work, and I think he carried too much momentum by default and sadly tapped the rear of Oliver Kemp's car. But I think he will be a little bit annoyed at what was the cut across the front of him by Kemp just before the braking zone. I think that might have just thrown him off slightly, but I think Kemp would argue, well, in the end we both were switching from side to side, so I think we gave it good as the other got. But I think that might briefly be looked at by the stewards after the racing, but hopefully it'll be a racing instant at that. But with that, we come back to live racing, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, we're still 2 minutes on the clock, and Oliver Kemp right now definitely seeing that battle settled in his favour, at least on the road. But as he heads on, meanwhile, we look all the way back up to your race leader overall, Philip Ansell, and in control. The gap right now, an absolutely staggering margin, and he does seem to have a habit of doing this, or the best part of what is around about 15 seconds. So in control, in fact, 20 seconds there as it comes up on our timing tower. But meanwhile, we are waiting to see who's going to come home ninth, and well, Ryan Cassidy's been a busy man. He has made his way past Max Wheeler and also Kai Hitchler, Renee Maurer, and Benjamin Massey has found his way past Wheeler in turn. We have unfortunately not been able to catch up on camera given all the battling. We don't have the replays available of it, but here comes Massey looking for a move on Hitchler now as he makes his way on towards turn number 1. Will he be able to get the move on the inside? Well, Hitchler's going to go defensive here. He's not going to give in, as meanwhile Cassidy having to go around the outside of Renee Maurer, but he goes wide, a bit of a touch between the two, I think, and the Team Enduratech driver goes deep on the road, and well, Benjamin Massey still trying to fight his way on past Hitchler here. It's getting very gritty between these drivers as Cassidy comes back on, and he's made several trips to the grass today, and well, another one there is definitely going to hurt him even more. As Hitchler having to defend here versus Massey, and Renee Maurer holding on, but we're not quite 100% sure whether there was contact between Maurer and Cassidy, so therefore we're not going to say there was or there wasn't. We just wonder whether there was, as I try to carry on. 30 seconds left to go. Our leader, meanwhile, Philip Ansell, goes on to his 36th and final lap. But here's Massey all over the back of Hitchler, heading up the hill here towards the S's. But the problem is he can be as close as this as he wants, but he's never making it too wide at the moment, unless he dares to go into what is the straights too wide and then carry it through the S's onwards. But a run wide at South Bend there for Hitchler. Massey looking around the outside again, trying to set up a line. Going all the way through what is Oak Tree Hairpin, and now it's all about the throttle. But that BMW, of course, look at the traction of that BMW and the pull on the straight. Immediately open that gap up to the best part of 4 attempts, but now Massey will bring it back down with the toe. But Hitchler does have a distant draft on the back of Renee Maurer's car, so that's going to help out to a degree as they power the way up towards the roller coaster bend. But Massey's got so much more confidence in the corners. That's where all the pace is, but he's got to try and beat the BMW on the straight, or at least beat it to a braking zone. That is the hard part of his job at the moment. Going down the hill, no way through as Max Wheeler all over the back of Massey. So this fight really building up right towards the very end. It's an intriguing fight, no doubt about it. And as they carry on, they go onto their final turn of the circuit. But roaring the way down the straight, will we see a move there from Massey getting ready for turn 1? Hitchler in the middle of the road, then pulls the inside. He can see Massey's been attempt here as they come down, and Massey's going to be made to look all the way round. Can he go for it on the brakes? He's going to try here, but he's going to burn a bit deep, locks up the front right brake, and Max Wheeler dives up the inside, so Wheeler takes the place back, and leads for a brief moment, but we must leave them there, ladies and gentlemen, because he makes it out the final corner for Philip Ansell. Well, it was a question, could he make it 4 in a row here at VIR? And the answer is, he will definitely do so, as Philip Ansell takes victory over in pro for Coup de Motorsport, and what a coup he's pulled off. But meanwhile, Massey versus Wheeler, they have swapped back, so Massey back ahead of Wheeler, but we'll leave them for a minute as we come back to Max Chambers, and the Concord Motorsport driver is going to take 2nd place today. What a driver, to be fair, a best result of the season for him, run up in pro, a huge haul of points coming his way. Wilson Liu will take 3rd place, his run of 2nd place finishes does come to a stop, but not his run of podium, so we pay 300 esports. And Pedro Luis da Silva will take 4th in the GP Sport Z on Porsche. Oliver Kemp, meanwhile, he does take it. He takes the Interwin. You can see how much it means to him for Concord Motorsport. In the end, fended off Mark Kelsbear, and Kelsbear losing out to their battle at the Horseshoe, and Oliver Kemp finally finding his first win as Kelsbear takes second place. Not the points he wanted, but to be fair to him, points that will see him maintain his championship lead ahead of then it was Deridas Lauridas taking up home at 7th place there, or Deridas Lauridas I should say his name properly, ahead of Christian Ablasser, who comes home in 8th place, and then it will be Aramis Zelinskas coming home in 9th just behind, and then rounded off the podium, it will be a double podium Inter with John Shamblin for Concord Motorsport will take home what will be 10th place of the road, 3rd in the Inter class, just ahead of Chad Henson. Vidas Andruskevicius missed out on the Inter podium, but a great run to 4th place, and then it will be Renee Maurer 13th, ahead of Victor Chamorro, Benjamin Massey and Max Wheeler. In fact, Chamorro being sent down the order there, I think a timing error that sent him down. And well, we will see for Mark Kent, well, we're wondering whether he could potentially make it 2 in a row. And the answer to that will be in club, yes, he can. For Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, it will be another victory for the 194 BMW. And behind him, it's going to be Nathan Healy, who has finished a lap down as classified. But it's a 1-2 for the team because the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver finishes second, just ahead of James Bostock, who in the end round off the club podium there for GPX SimSport Onyx. Goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a race. What ended the race as well. Plenty of battles non-stop all the way through. And as our drivers cool on down, definitely a memorable race at VIR for mostly the right reasons. And well, an absolutely exciting battle, no doubt about it, between several drivers. Just to give you confirmation, it was 13th for Renee Maurer ahead of Benjamin Massey and Max Wheeler. Rian Cassidy was 16th, and then Victor Chamorro, he was 17th, not 14th, unlike the times I suggested for a brief moment. But as all the drivers definitely just take it nice and easy and cool down. Well, what a race, no doubt about it. And well, every round has been more intense than the previous one. And we're not just saying that as a cliche, it is really true. And at VIR, well, there may have been question marks about whether they could overtake here today. And well, our GTE drivers demonstrated the fact that it doesn't matter where they go, they'll find places to battle, and they'll do extremely well in doing so. But as cool, we all see our drivers make their way to the pit lane, including Philip Ansell there, your winner, and get ready to take his 4th winner's virtual trophy of the season. The Cuda Motorsport driver, cool on down and thinking to himself right now, it doesn't matter where he goes, he's definitely got the car, the team behind him, and also the driver gets the job done. But with that, we better get our job done in taking a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, after 60 minutes of racing in round number 4 of the Virginia International Raceway for the SimRacing International GTE Championship Season 2, as brought to you at iRacing, Philip Ansell, your winner here today for Cuda Motorsport, and taking that win by almost 22 seconds ahead of Concord Motorsport's Max Chambers. He was runner-up for Max Chambers, his best result of the season, and did well to achieve that second place, batting hard with Wilson Liu, but also along the way, Aramis Zelinskas and Pedro Luis da Silva, and also Tom Bland. Unfortunately, Tom Bland having a big error that dropped him from second place, and the Concord Motorsport driver was able to pick up the pieces best, and he was 6 seconds ahead of Wilson Liu at the finish. The WePay 300 esports driver, seeing his run of second place finishes come to a stop, but to be fair, his run of podiums has not ended as he took the 3rd in Pro and overall. Behind him, it was Pedro Luis da Silva, chasing the podiums, his best result of the season with that 4th place, but still waiting for his first podium of the season in the Pro class. He'll have to wait until another day. The Portuguese driver for GPX SimSport Zenon then followed up by your Inter winner, Oliver Kemp, who jumped ahead of Mark Kelsbear on strategy right at the end, but then had to dig in deep and fight hard. There may have been a question mark over the defence and the offence of both drivers, but to be fair, it was a thrilling battle, and Kemp finding a way, on the road at least for Concord Motorsport, to stay ahead of Mark Kelsbear. Conversely, Kelsbear, whilst he will be gutted not to have been able to make it a win here today, and indeed his absence of being on top step of the podium continues after that win in round number 2. Well, at the same time, the Cuda Academy driver's got to be thinking to himself, in reality, a second place here, given the fortunes of his rivals, actually is going to extend his championship lead quite handsomely, but he will know he was beaten on strategy here today. Then it'll be Davidas Lorenonis in 7th for SRB Motorsport by Lind Vega. He was 6 seconds clear of Christian Ablasser with the Gazx Racing team, who went under the radar for the majority of the broadcast. We didn't really get to talk about him, but to be fair, a quiet race and some solid points for it. Behind the Austrian driver, it was the Lithuanian Aramis Zelinskas, and the SRB Motorsport by Lind Vega driver losing out after his incredible freeway battle for second place with Chambers and Liu, but it was cutting the pit entry line that saw him pick up a 40-second stop and hold, and sadly it relegated him out of the podium fight. Then we did see John Shamblin rounding off the Inter podium in 10th place there for Concord Motorsport, making it a double podium alongside his teammate of Oliver Kemp, a 1st and a 3rd, albeit he wasn't on top today, but he definitely made it back to the podium and some good points coming his way. Chad Henson was best of the rest for Turbo Rennsport in 11th, ahead of Vidas Andruskevicius, with the SRB Motorsport driver making his way from 13th to 12th today, not really picking up places on the way, but definitely had to put in some recovery work after an early incident. Renee Maurer, 13th for Leopard Esports, ahead of Benjamin Massey, the Inox Motorsport driver who fought his way back through the field after the early incidents to 14th, and he was able to squeeze out a Max Wheeler right at the finish, with the three-wheeler racing driver completing your top 15. Ian Cassidy was 16th, and it was Victor Chamorro, 17th there, the privateer, ahead of Mark Kent, your club class winner, making it 2 in a row for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. And here today, he didn't take pole. Jaden Innes took pole in the class, but then he was the one who got it done, and he did it with class. Kai Hitchler took 19th there for Leopard Esports, ahead of Kevin Smith, with the Verona Esports for Edge Overlays Dry, having a bit of a challenging race, but fought his way up through the order. And we did see 21st, Taras Vosberg there, starting for the very back of the field, and had to make his way onwards for the SRB Motorsport, and did very well to do so, coming all the way from 48th to 21st. That's no mean feat. Nathan Heaney, a runner-up in the club class, and then thought he'd lost that runner-up spot when James Bostock came out ahead of him, out of pit lane, only then to find Bostock outbroke himself and sent himself towards Mr. Thomas and Narnia. But then we did see the GPX Sims were Onyx driver in the end, recover back to 3rd place, and the British driver there doing a good job in doing so. Tim Perry, 24th. Behind, just ahead of Gareth Newton, and the GPX Simsport Vertex driver's run of podium finishes does come to a brief halt, so he'll be looking to try and regroup next time out. But his championship lead, I believe, will still stand to a small degree. Mark Hutchinson was 26th, a lap down amongst the likes of Vosberg, Healy, Bostock, Perry and Newton, and the lap down theme continued with Sammy Alex, Brian Beardsworth, Jaden Innes and Clyde Vella completed your top 30, and it was John Becker in 31st. There's Sebastian Schwertfeger, who after his brilliance midway through the race, a late instant cost him dear, unfortunately, but he was ahead of David Payne, Mikhail Salcuni, Dwayne Hoffman, Marcus Clayton and Gianluca Rospo, who takes you all the way down to 37th place. And it was 2 laps down to Jan Lintz and Olivier Granier, and then we did see 3 laps down to Ivan Hupka, and outside your top 40. 41st, it was Gavin Corby ahead of Max Dean, who all finished the race on their own steam. Neil's non-finishes sadly is classified for Christophe Dubois, also for Matthew Massey, Tom Bland, John Ludbrook, Craig Tillotson, Mikhail Abasek and Flavian Tieffrey. But then to the class finishing positions, because that's where the points are made and paid. And as we see here in Pro, first and foremost, Philip Ansell, your winner. 4 wins in a row. And indeed, right now, this championship campaign is definitely very much coming alive for the Cuda Motorsport driver and put off an absolutely brilliant performance and not contested over the distance. But Max Chambers in the end found himself in a fierce contest for 2nd place, and he won that contest for Concord Motorsport just ahead of Wilson Liu. Wilson Liu ran off the podium there for WePay 500 Esports, ahead of Pedro Luis da Silva, and the GPX Simsport Xenon driver fighting his way forward every step of the way and enjoying himself out there ahead of Devidas Lorenonis. The SRB Motorsport by Lind Vega driver a further 25 seconds behind, but he was comfortably clear of Christian Ablas at the finish line. Stick for the Gazex Racing driver ahead of Aramas Zelenskas, who would have been in the podium fight if it were not for the stop and hold penalty, and Chad Henson 8th place there. The Turbo Rensport driver enjoyed a quiet but points paying race. Renee Mao was 9th for Leopard Esports ahead of Benjamin Massey for Inox Motorsport, and then Max Wheeler best the rest in 11th place in the three-wheeler race in Ferrari. Ian Cassidy was just behind Ian 12th there for Team Endurotech, and then it was a sizable gap of 40 seconds back to Kai Hitchler. And I do wonder whether he potentially picked up what was a post-race penalty, because we didn't quite see what happened to him. But the Leopard Esports driver being demoted down to 13th place there. It was then a lap down for Taras Vosberg, as it was for Tim Perry and Mark Hutchison. The Altitude 3M Esports team today having a nightmare day, it would seem, because Christophe Dubois was a retiree, and so was none other than Tom Bland in the 334, who was the first of our pro drivers to retire. Then to the interclass we go. As we can see in our second tier, there's the confirmation. Oliver Kemp, the winner today in the interclass, and stopping Mark Calsbear from being able to make it a 2nd win of the season. The Concord Motorsport driver had to fight hard and use his strategic smarts, plus a bit of elbows out battling, to make that win come his way. The Kudo Academy driver Mark Calsbear in the end 7 seconds behind, but that's not a reflection on the reality of the situation, which is if he had not gone off the road at turn number 1 after the altercation with Kemp and that lock-up, well, he definitely would have been right on the back of him come the finish. He may have even had another chance to win, but still, close fighting. It's always going to go one way for one driver and the other for the other. But behind him, Concord Motorsport making a double podium with John Shamlin, a further 20 seconds behind, but he was 10 seconds ahead of Vidas Andruskevicius, and the SRB Motorsport driver in turn was 9 seconds ahead of Victor Shimara, who he passed late on, and the Enosis Esports driver losing out, but still finishing inside the top 5. It was a lap down to Kevin Smith, who made his way just outside the top 5 positions, but a good effort from the Verano Esports Edge Overlays 1 driver. He was ahead of Sammy Alex. It was Clyde Vella ahead of Sebastian Schwertfeger and David Payne, who completed your into top 10. It was 2 laps down for Jan Lintz and Oliver Granier, and then we did see what was retirements for John Ludbrook, Mikhail Abasek and Flavian Tieffrey. Meanwhile, in the club class, lastly, what we see in our 3rd tier of drivers, Mark Kent there, the only driver in the club class to finish on the lead lap, and therefore a lap ahead of everybody else, and it was a Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport 1-2, because he led it home ahead of teammate Nathan Healy, who in the end kept calm, cool and consistent, and managed to make sure that he didn't make the mistakes that James Bostock did, and took home that 2nd place. The GPXs were Onyx driver, well, taking the the third place there, so he is continuing to run a podiums in every round he's attended, but his win streak has definitely come to a stop, and the podium streak for Gareth Newton as well has come to a halt for GPX SimSport Vertex. Brian Beardsworth, however, completing a trio of GPX SimSport cars, ran off the top 5, ahead of Jaden Inish, or pole sitter, who lost it all at the start and was only able to recover to 6th, but still some valuable points for the Cuda Motorsport driver, and he's got to keep his spirit high in the fact that he knows he's got the pace to win Racing Club, he's just got to put it all together. And John Becker took 7th place there, ahead of Mikel Salcuni, and then we did see Dwayne Hoffman and Marcus Clayton complete your top 10. Behind the Verano Esports Veg overlay stripe, it was then Gianluca Rospo for Deep Motorsport, who was in the thick of the fighting every step of the way, and we did see 2 laps back to Ivan Halpka, 3 laps down from the overall winner, but ahead of Gavin Corby there by lap, and Max Dean was the last finisher, 5 laps down. Non-finishes, however, applied for Matthew Massey when he was looking so good for a podium. We're not quite sure what happened to the Spectre Racing driver, but in the end the car came into the pit lane, it went no further after that. I suspect there was an issue with the Porsche, and sadly, an early retirement for Craig Tillotson as well. It didn't quite work out for the Verano Esports Veg overlay driver today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our rundown of the results, subject to any stewards' inquiries here from VIR. And with that, it does conclude our broadcast, and it means it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now thinking that you want to be on the grid for any of our ongoing or upcoming series, or you just want to get to know the SimRacing International community a little bit more, that you feel you might be at home here, well, the good news is we're home to a whole variety of SimRacing individuals, and whether you are a rookie all the way through to an esports professional, we'd love to see you join the grid or join the community. And if you do join, using the Discord link at the bottom of the screen, what can you get on the grid for? Well, firstly, we are big fans of GT3s, because we have our Thursday GT3 Championship, currently on its 12th season, and the Masters and Superstar splits. Alternatively, if you like your GT cars, but you do want to go for a trip back in time to 2023, we'll indulge you, because you'll be tuning in today, of course, to the GTE Championship Season 2, and that does run every Friday evening. Or if you're a GT3 racer, but you want to race on the weekends, we've got you covered there as well, because on Sunday evenings, we do have the UK Sim Racing Sunday Showdown, which is in its 18th season, and we'd love to see you on the grid there. Or if you want something a little bit more casual and just to practice and have some good company, well, of course, we do have three races per week in our practice league, which does run on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Saturdays. So never been a better time to get on the grid here at SimRacing International. But with that, we'd also like to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include CarMate, Modern Technology, the GP2 Group, and lastly, we'd like to give a big shout out and thank you to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, what lies in wait next time out? Well, the good news is next time we will be back live from circuit side, and we will be in the US of A still, and we'll be heading all the way to Daytona's International Speedway for the road course there, and in round number 5 on Friday the 24th of April 2026, we may see some mixed conditions, and we will see the battles run rampant around the legendary circuit. But as we've seen today, in the pro class at least, Philip Ansell has not had a blotch in his championship so far, with 4 wins back to back, and somebody's got to close up to it soon, whereas in the inter class, a whole new winner today. Things are continuing to be revised, and the championship table has been turned upside down in the form of Oliver Kemp versus Mark Calsbear. And in the club class, well, Mark Kent has now made it 2 wins in a row. Can he go for a hat-trick, and in doing so, take himself right to the top of the pile? Or will we see a bounce back for GPX SimSports' James Bostock and also Gareth Newton? For all that and more, come tune in next time live from circuit side to find out the story continues in Season 2 of the SimRacing International GTE Championship. Until then, we've been SimRacing International. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.